So we got that going on. Alright, first game that we're going over... U of Michigan versus Drexel Wyverns. Yeah, okay, so this one. Actually, let's go over that one second. I kind of want to go over the more recent CSL game. The second one will tie into the EG versus Chaos game a lot better, I think. Yeah, so let's go over the second CSL game. Let me pull up my notes real quick.
I like that Darkseer art.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so this is not that one. Okay, here we go. So yeah, as far as the drafting goes, this is going to be kind of sketching the recording just because I know the drafting phase always bugs out for some reason. But the audio should be fine, so we're just going to try and skip through this as much as we can. In the draft, I really don't like Support Abaddon. I don't think it does a whole lot, honestly, unless picked 4th or 5th under very specific circumstances. I understand you guys are trying to counter the Jakiro, but honestly, Jakiro isn't really a hero that you need to counter, per se. It's more of a hero that you just have to play around and not pick into, like Monkey King, for example, just doesn't do well against Jakiro. Another drafting error that I saw here was the Wind Ranger. I think it suffers way too hard against the Underlord and Jakiro. And there was a lot of examples in exactly why later into the game. A, her base damage suffers a ton, which she doesn't have a whole lot of to begin with, and it just compounds on the ult not doing anything. B, Underlord just develops way too much lockdown for the Wind Ranger to keep her in one place, and a Wind Ranger that stays in one place, even though she has her Wind Walk, she'll die every single time. And that's exactly what happened. Underlord just kept her rooted for like 8 seconds at a time. There was no BKB rush, so Urchin just ended up dying. Even though he made like a lot of really cool plays, Urchin just ended up dying way too much on this Wind Ranger, and it didn't really feel like he was accomplishing what his job was this particular game. Also, the Wind Ranger pick, something you'll see in professional drafts, especially the one we're going over, every single team tends to pick at least 2 heroes that are super tanky and can get into fights and be a frontliner, initiate if they have to. We had a lot of success doing that with like a Core Tiny and Core Legion Commander, for example. 2 very tanky heroes that initiate and can frontline and don't immediately get bursted. This game, what really stood out to me is that our tankiest heroes, the Tiny and the Abba, are both supports. And then we have some really, really squishy heroes for the most part, this Viper, Wind Ranger, and Bloodseeker, who just get gone on. And so that's what the main issue was with the draft. You need cores that can actually play in team fights, and we didn't really have any. We just had cores that got CC'd way too hard by the enemy team. Now, about this last pick, Viper into Ember is good in lane, but in my opinion, it's very bad against Ember Spirit. Because unless you build very specific lockdown items to deal with him, it just becomes a very free game for the Ember Spirit, since there's no immediate lockdown to speak of at all on your entire team. I would have liked to see like an Atos build come out for the Viper if you really planned on dealing with this Ember Spirit, but the Hurricane Pike was the first pickup, and it just, you can see throughout the game, it just really didn't do anything, and it felt like once they got on top of Viper and Wind Ranger and Bloodseeker, all these somewhat squishy heroes, people just died. There was no real frontliner because your Tiny's just a support and your Abba's a support, and you guys suffered in these team fights because of that. Cores just got kited way too hard, CC'd, and these 3 heroes, Bloodseeker, Wind Ranger, and Viper, just don't do very well if that's what happens. If they can't kind of get their skills off freely, is what I'm saying. So I think a big part of this third game, and the reason why we lost so hard, was a severe outdraft. Picking 3 heroes as cores that get really hard countered by like the Jakiro, the Underlord, the Phantom Lancer and the Ember Spirit, and then picking like Abba Tiny as like supports against like an AA. Oh man, Abaddon feels so bad into AA because it's like the ulti does basically nothing. It just delays you dying every single time. That's kind of what ended up happening. So let's start off with mid. First off, I absolutely hate this mid build. 5 mangoes and a salve is ridiculous. It's way too much regen for the mid. It doesn't give you any stats. It doesn't allow you to really harass as much as you would be able to had you gone for more stats. Really what you should be doing, especially in this lane where the first 2 waves are so important, because what you want to accomplish with this early laning on Viper versus Ember is you want to prevent him from getting any CS and anything from the first couple of waves, so you delay his level 3 and don't allow him to just jungle. The problem with this build is, yes, you can get off a lot of poison attacks, but A, they're not as effective, and B, your right clicks, period, just don't do anything to the Ember Spirit. And it's just really, it's hard to really do what you want to, which is zone him out of the lane completely early on. Because these first 2 waves, actually, I believe the Ember Spirit last hits you. And so it's like, yeah, you've got enough mangoes to sustain right clicks, but it's like they don't do nearly as much, and you can't actually get as many off because of your lack of attack speed as you otherwise could have. Like, if you had stats here, maybe you get that last hit on the range creep and you get your early level 2, but now the Ember Spirit is the one that's pressuring you because he gets an early level 2, and you're stuck at level 1 with just mangoes. So, A, use your regen faster with a Tango, and B, different starting items, please. You need more stats in mid lane 99% of the time. It's just, there's no reason not to ferry out more mangoes as you need them, rather than having them ahead of time. So that's what really punished you in these early CS. You can see the Ember Spirit's gotten 4-2 versus your 3-2, which is ridiculous for a lane that should go extremely well for Viper up until level 6. Yeah, then the rest of it, there's not really a whole lot to talk about. Once Viper gets 3, it becomes pretty unlaneable for Ember, but the problem is he gets the level 3 at about the same time, and he can just go into the jungle to recover. And then there's not really a whole lot to say about this lane because it's free up until about 6 minutes and 50 seconds, which was when a really big issue kind of occurred. So we'll talk about this Tiny gank a little bit later. When we're going over his particular lane. I think it could have been done a lot better. And I showed Lincoln in this pro game that we're going to be going over, the EG versus Chaos. We'll see exactly why it could be done better. A very, very similar situation happened. And even though it didn't work out, per se, you can see the impact was much more than this one kill that did work out. And I'll show you why, rather, later on. So, moving forward a little bit, Viper free lane, because there's just nothing Ember can do now, and you have the inappropriate amount of regen to just permanently spam out stuff, so he can't do a whole lot. Yeah, this early pause is annoying. Okay, so getting up to about this point right here. Ember still doesn't have 6, so you can dominate this lane, but what does dominating mean in this setting? To me, it means making sure that you get farm and pressuring this tier 1 tower. Your job, this right here, when you see 2 heroes, is a huge overextension. And what have we talked about time and time again? When you were on Death Prophet earlier on, when you dive too deep and you're ahead, you end up giving up these kills that should never happen. And you allow a mid player who was completely countered originally, he's level 5 tier 7, to come back into the game. So it really, to me, this movement tells me that you're not really learning from what I'm saying, because you're diving underneath the tier 2 against 2 heroes that you see, and you just end up dying. Even though you've had a completely free game up until this point, this dive under the tier 2 tower just completely throws it away. Like, This guy's playing with an extra 5 armor right now because you're playing underneath his tier 2. And so what happens? You end up tanking tower hits, and he doesn't even have to do anything. He just pops Flame Guard and walks at you, and you die. And it's because you're playing under, like, against this tier 2 tower, which should never happen. You should be applying pressure onto the tier 1, focusing objectives, always. But, I mean, because of this rotation, this movement behind into the tier 2, he gets a full creep wave, he gets his level 6, he gets a kill on you, like, I mean, he was 0-2, and now he actually has a game because of that one movement. And you've done it a lot, too. It's something that you definitely need to work on, Adam. Something that we've seen a lot of in these games, where it's like, you have a huge early lead, and then you throw it away. It's really an issue I see plaguing you, and it will make you a better mid player if you stop these kind of silly dives and these silly aggressive movements and just focus on the little things. Focus on the things that you really have to aim for in these lanes. Pressuring a tier 1 tower, getting rune control, stacking camps, farming efficiently, looking for rotation onto the enemy. Things like that. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say. Don't want to spend too much time on these, so we'll rewind a little bit and move on to top and bottom. So let's do top. Small thing I wanted to say in this particular matchup, I found a lot of success going Orb of Venom with Bloodseeker versus Underlord. I think he really suffers early on from being very, very slow, and Orb tends to punish that. So if you can get like a Venom and Boots early on, especially in a lane where you're free farming, it's a huge power spike, and it actually gives you a lot of kill potential. Just ties into the theme of what are your priorities in the lane? Number one, how do I 100 to 0 someone? How do I kill them over and over again so I can snowball? The answer in this particular lane, I think, where it's like you don't have a whole lot of heroes with mobility, the PL, the Ember Spirit, defensive abilities, etc., you want to go for the most aggressive build to punish them as possible, and I think I found a lot of success going Orb of Venom and Boots early on, because it lets you trade hits very efficiently, lets you avoid a lot of damage from the Underlord's nukes. It just works out really well. So consider your starting items. I like this aggressive movement over the rune, securing it. This is fine. It's just zoning play. Great. But yeah, just think about your items more. You don't always have to go the standard Wraith Band into Wand, especially against heroes that, yeah, they spam out skills, but it's like, are you really going to get 10 charges on your stick or 11 charges off of Firestorm? Early on, the answer is probably no. So I would like to see you kind of prioritizing move speed items, Orb of Venom definitely being one of them since it modifies his early on, and I think this lane is a little bit easier and a little bit more, you can play a little bit more aggressively that way. Later, there wasn't a whole lot to say about this lane either. I mean, I think it went particularly kind of well for you, as it should. It's a countered lane. Bloodseekers should do very well against Underlord, minus like a huge misplay. And you did fine CSing for the most part. I mean, there's always little improvements on mechanics to be made, but I mean, that's essentially for you to work on. I can't really tell you exactly what to do. You just gotta get more comfortable on it. Talking about item choice, later on, the drums. I wasn't really sure about the drums. I understand it's like an early game fighting item, like you want to get into the middle of everyone and use it as an aura for your teammates and stuff like that. However, I don't really think that helped you very much later on, because it's like, yeah, you got drums, you got a bunch of kills off of it, but you weren't able to pressure things. I think one thing this team really struggles with right now is hitting towers. Like, the Tiny isn't really going to have any tower damage. The Wind Ranger isn't going to have any tower damage until she can use her ultimate on towers. And so it's like, I feel like you just needed to go for more damage items early on, especially against the PL. In order to pressure him, drums doesn't really do a whole lot. Things like Maelstrom or Radiance, on the other hand, would have been my first thoughts. With complete free farm in the lane that you got like this and the highest net worth, I think a Radiance Rush is definitely in order. And then 5-manning in between farming a BKB would just put you on such a nice time schedule against this PL and these other heroes. Now, my thought would be to lean more towards Radiance this game, and the justification is PL really suffers from it early on. He just can't fight into it until he gets up like a Manta style +1. Um, because it's just too hard. The mischance hurts him, constantly lowering his illusions. So over time, his team fight prowess is just punished. It really, really hurts. And the rest of his team also is very, very sensitive to Radiance as well. AA, very squishy hero. Jakiro, somewhat squishy. And Underlord, his passive doesn't help him at all against the Radiance burn and just the straight up damage that comes from it. And quite frankly, the healing as well. Because if you blood rage yourself around a creep wave with Radiance and start getting last hits because of it, the increased damage and everything like that, your sustain goes up a lot. So in this particular game, I think you would have had about like 17, 18-minute Radiance with your core items had you gone for it straight. And at that point, what you're looking at is how do I match up with the enemy carry? How does my item timings uh, affect the game more than his? Around 17, 18 minutes, you should expect the PL to only have about a diffusal and then starting to work on his Manta style. Maybe he has a component of Yasha by 17-ish minutes. Most likely not. And then at around 23 to 24 minutes is when you should be done with farming Radiance BKB, I would think. That gives you another little time period to farm it, and I think that would definitely have been possible this game. And around that same item timing, again, if you're thinking about this, is PL Diffusal Manta, right? Because, like, PL didn't have a super good game this game. I mean, a little bit, but that was because of other reasons. But he shouldn't have his third item until 25, 26-ish minutes. If it's a really good player, it's 25, 24, 25. A really good player that has a free game, 24 to 25 is when he gets his third item. A less talented player, like I think this PL was a divine. Okay, so I would be saying his third item is going to be coming in around 27, 28 minutes. So if you can take a fight around that 25-minute mark and have Radiance BKB when PL just has Diffusal Manta, they don't do anything. You take objectives, you roll over the game, you can hunt him constantly. But that's only if you rush those two items. Drums, all of a sudden, you go for drums, it costs you almost 2,000 gold, you delay all your timings by 4 minutes, well, now the PL has time to get his third item. And now the game's a lot harder, because now you're not taking advantage of his weak points and kind of maximizing your strength, which is having a free lane right now, having a good time farming, being top net worth. Now you're making it really, really difficult for yourself by playing more into his strong points. You can see, even though the PL had way more CS, the net worth on Bloodseeker is above him. And it stays like that for a very long time, which is why I think that had you gone a little bit greedier of a build, the game would have been much easier. I think one of the biggest issues with losing this game in particular was just the itemization and not understanding the overall effects of hitting bigger item timings sooner. And that's something that, again, comes with experience, but also is just something that you have to really get used to. Like when you play PL, and you have to understand to have this understanding of his weak points and his strong points. You actually have to play this hero as a position 1, and then you gain an understanding for the matchup between Bloodseeker and PL, or like Juggernaut versus Troll, like just things like that. So yeah, consider your overarching items, your big item timings and things like that, and always take into consideration what their effect is going to be against the rest of the enemy team. Drums is great early on, but later into the game, it just delays your timings, and unfortunately, you can't really get as much as you would out of a greedier item build this game. And having such a good lane, again, means that you can go for a greedier item build. Alright. Anyways, I think that was pretty much all I wanted to say. Again, these were two very free lanes that just kind of got pushed out of whack because of some bad decisions. So let's quickly go over bottom lane now, just to address a few things. Okay, alright. Number one, we're going to see it in the professional game that we're going to watch, but the position 4. So, right now, you're not really doing anything. You've got this boots build. You can trade hits against, like, the AA, who only has 50 damage and, like, 600 health compared to your 800. You can trade hits very effectively with your skills and everything like that. But it didn't feel like you were ever really doing it, especially early on. Like here, yeah, you're getting off a couple of auto attacks, but now it's like you're kind of wondering, what do I do? And the answer 99% of the time on position 4 in a lane where you don't feel like you have kill potential is soak level 2 and make something happen somewhere else. You never want to just start rotating with level 1, and you'll see why later. But number one, I don't think you needed to rotate at all this game. Again, Viper versus Ember should be a completely free lane for the Viper until level 6. You don't have to touch this lane until later, and then top lane is completely fine. They're going to have a free time. I don't think rotating at all was the decision to be made in this particular lane, because now, what happens? What happens in this lane now that the Tiny's going mid? PL has a free game. He has a free lane when he shouldn't. Against a Tiny and a Wind Ranger, like Wind Ranger should be able to auto-attack him, but now because the AA is here with the PL, she has to focus her attention onto the AA, and it becomes much more difficult to stop this PL from just having a free time with all the creeps. And so it's like you can't do this, especially when like Tiny Wind Ranger should have a really good time against AAPL, at least for the early levels. You need to apply pressure where it's most effective, and in this particular instance, I think that was bottom lane. You needed to harass the AA, trade hits with him, toss him back into the creep wave so that Wind Ranger can go on him, and then focus on bullying out the PL. But because of your decisions in this game, the decision to rotate early on at level 1, PL just had a free time. He was able to get what he wanted out of the lane, rotate into the jungle, and then hit his item timings at a pretty good rate because he just didn't feel any pressure this game. You never applied any to him. So, now, because of this rotation, yes, you get the toss back on the Ember Spirit, luckily. I think it's only because he actually turned around. Yeah, he did. So it's only because he actually turned around and went back towards you that you get this toss-off on him. I would say like 99 times out of 100, this will never work. To secure this, and to prevent yourself from dying, you need level 2. If you had Avalanche into a toss, that just secures the toss back from the Ember. And then you have a much better chance of happening. Only reason this happened was because of a misplay on the Ember. And then you still died. But I don't really think that happens if you can Avalanche him first, toss him off quickly, and then toggle off aggro or get out as soon as possible. I think you have more stats, I think you have a little bit more move speed, and you just accomplish what you were here for faster. But that's kind of the downside of the level 1 rotation, is that you're not really able to do that. You end up giving experience to the AA, who's now almost level 3, and then Ember can just come back and farm this lane. So that kill really didn't mean a whole lot, if you can see what I mean. Because Ember was still able to get experience. He's now level 3. He can come back and farm this jungle camp after stacking it. Like, yes, you see it, but I don't even think this was contested. Viper was just kind of doing his thing and allowing this Ember to... This is all part of the recovery process, right? You have an impossible lane, well, this is what you do. You get enough experience to hit a level like 2 or 3, maybe. For example, TA would be doing the exact same thing. And then you just go hit jungle creeps that you stack. So the fact that you're allowing him to do this is... it's difficult. It makes everyone's job a little bit more difficult. So the Tiny didn't actually interrupt anything. He's still level 1. I think he's level 1 until like 5 minutes into the game. And all this time, PL's just free farming bottom because the Wind Ranger's tanking harass from the AA. There was no reason to make this rotation top. There was no reason to make a rotation mid. But you did it anyways, and now the game is infinitely harder because PL's getting free farm. And that's just an effect of your decision making. So, again, it comes down to really deciding, well, where can I have the most impact? And where can I kind of have the most effect bang for my buck? And the answer in this particular instance is probably bottom. I just don't really see any other reason to be anywhere else, quite frankly. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say. I think Urgent actually played phenomenally in this game up until about 20 minutes. It was just a total misitemization. You need a BKB so badly against this team. This Underlord that eventually gets a bunch of roots, this AA, the Ember Spirit, the Jakiro, all of them have ways of CCing the Wind Ranger and controlling him up. You need a BKB to stop that, and the Blink Dagger was just... It wasn't Urgent's job this particular game, and he still went for it. I think you had a Blink Dagger on Tiny even, like, early on, but you died, like, 3 or 4 times just because you delayed that BKB so much until about like 33 minutes. He didn't have a BKB second item until 33 minutes. When he could have had it, like, man, I think around like 25 or like 24, he could have had a full BKB. Yeah, so I think it was just a misitemization later on. He played fantastic for the most part up until that point. But yeah, that just cost him so much later. It was really sad to see. All right, let's quickly wrap up the team play for this game. So around 10 minutes. Let's see. I mean, it was 10 minutes was difficult. No one was really in position bot. The Abaddon was the only one to make a rotation, and Viper didn't rotate out of mid around that 10 minutes. So it didn't seem like anyone was really making an effort at all, and no one really called it out, I guess. Maybe this is the problem with like not playing with Zach. I don't know if you guys had a dedicated shot caller this game or not, but it didn't seem like people were calling out timings.
I think I called out outposts, but I don't remember for sure.
Okay, yeah, because nobody...
Yeah, I don't actually remember. I believe I did, but I don't remember.
No one made a rotation besides you on the Abaddon at 10 minutes. It's going to be coming up right now. So, like, right around here, right now, it's just nobody's in position for it. You guys get a kill right here, but then everyone just kind of hangs out. No one goes for this rune or that rune. And then Abba's the only one to go for it, alone, into this one. And now you give it up to a PL. That should never happen, because you just weren't in position afterwards. So yeah, I mean, we're still struggling a little bit with rotations. I think, like, at that 10-minute mark, when you want to be making that first rotation, smoking for their outpost should definitely be on your radar. Making a move at this first important time to try and deny them that experience, which happened to you guys in, I think, the second game that we're going to be looking after. You can punish teams that don't respect those timings so hard by making those early game rotations. And I'd like to see you guys start doing them rather than just sitting in the lane and going for kills, actually trying to play around objectives. I saw you guys do it before, so I'm not sure why it's just not really happening now. And that kind of led me to thinking, well, maybe it's because Zach isn't here and he's not really making those calls. Okay, 13 minutes is the next thing I wanted to talk about. So this is fine for the most part, I don't think. Oh no, he does die. Okay, but it's like a swap for the Ember, but again, like, this shouldn't really happen. You shouldn't be playing up here with, like, 0 HP. I mean, these kills are fine, but it's like Viper's giving up kills that shouldn't be happening when you have a free lane. And the experience swing from them is just absurd as well. Like, one kill, and they get 700 experience back on some pretty important heroes, the Ember Spirit and the Chikuro. Whereas you're getting it on the Support Abaddon, Support Tiny, and the Wind Ranger. So, I mean... yeah, and then that happens anyways. So this was kind of a questionable team fight. And it's just like... part of what's happening right now is you guys are waiting for them to make a move on you. You're not actually making anything happen. You missed your timing of 10 minutes, and everyone's just kind of sitting in a lane, chilling, getting gone on by the Ember Spirit at all. So it's like, I mean, again, this is how teams that are in a worse position can take advantage of you, by forcing something favorable when you're just playing passively. Alright, so 13 minutes in, I think, is the next one that I wanted to see. Yeah, right around here. So you guys keep diving for this, which is fine. I mean, going for these kills. I think you get both of them. You have vision on him, he turns back in, that's great. And then you get a tier 1 tower. Awesome. So you got 2 kills, and you transferred it into an objective, but then everyone keeps going. And I wasn't really sure why. The Wind Ranger TP'd out. I mean, you've got no ulti on the Bloodseeker and half your mana. Yeah, everyone else is here, but it's like... man, I don't know. I just don't think there's a reason to really be fighting underneath this tower, this tier 2 tower, without your Wind Ranger and into all their abilities. Right here. So, like, in this particular situation, when the Underlord started TPing out, I think not canceling that with Avalanche was a big mistake. You waited a little bit too long to kind of go in and do that. Maybe that's another kill, maybe that changes something, but I doubt it. Yeah, it's just like, you guys start splitting up, the Ember Spirit has no one to CC him, so he just gets on top of the Viper and ends up killing him eventually. And it's like, you get punished for these overextensions, these diving under the tier 2 tower as 4 heroes, into all their abilities, all their defense. Like, that 5 armor makes a huge difference, and you're just walking right into it. I don't think you're really giving it the respect that it deserves, unfortunately. So everyone kind of just gets punished for this, really. And now it's like, everyone's in here fighting and, like, taking this fight. Nobody's farming at all. Like, that's one of the other big things, is the efficiency aspect. They're taking a fight 4v5 and getting things out of it still. You're taking the fight with 5 heroes and nobody else is farming while this PL is just doing his thing and getting massive. It's 15 minutes in, he's got a Yasha and Hood now, and it's like, it's going to be really difficult taking care of him. I think he just really understood his job early on. Like, he knew not to fight, and he knew to just keep farming, and he did it. So, I mean, yeah, you're getting a few kills, but it's like, the only objective you got was this tier 1 mid, and then after that, it was just overextension after overextension. Let's fast forward a little bit. The 15-minute bounties were okay. Still, I think there's a little bit of work to be done. That's fine. PL overextends, starts fighting into you, just dies. Just taking advantage of mistakes for him. You guys get a tower. Now, here. Right here. So, obviously, everyone wants to play around bottom lane right now, right? You got some dank little vision over here. You've got everyone taking the outpost. You're pressuring this tier 2. You need to really commit, though, to securing this lane. And that means putting down more wards on the high ground, securing these areas over here, making sure that you always have vision. I think at 19 minutes in was the next team fight, and you took it without any vision whatsoever, and it just destroyed you. It was really, really unfortunate. So he TP's in and dies again, just...
Sorry, do we have any wards in stock at this time? I don't remember.
I can't check from the replay. It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't actually show me. So I wouldn't know. I would assume so, though, because the only ward that you have placed right now is this one right here. So I would assume that there are definitely some wards in stock, unless they somehow dewarded like 3 of them by the 17-minute mark. Yeah. So if you want to play around this part of the map, that's fine. I think that's a great idea. But you need to secure it more than just this ward here. And that means wards on this high ground, wards over on this low ground, wards over here by the river, wards on this high ground, ward over here. It doesn't really matter where. Some of them are more obvious D wards than others. Some of them will give you more of an advantage than others. But it needs to be there so you're not just blind all throughout where you're playing. This ward's great, but it's a little bit more aggressive than where you're playing. You should be playing around this ward, and this tier 2 should be going down if you want to play around this ward. For where you guys are, you need a little bit more defensive warding. And
yeah, Dev. So when we were starting to push, I think it was after the first PL kill. I went out and put those down after we took the outpost, or sometime around then.
Right.
We were pressuring the tower, but then the Jakiro came down and we had the AA blast, and that stopped our push.
Right.
So we just sort of all backed out because of that, because we couldn't see, we lost vision of all of them, so we didn't know whether they were smoked up running down or.
But now I want to show you something. Look at your vision now. This is what you see around the map. You've got nothing. You're not playing around your vision. You're not playing around your wards. You're kind of moving from one side of the map to the other for no reason. And now, look at their vision. They've got all their wards up and placed. They've got pretty defensive ones up here. I mean, they've got complete control over the map for some reason, because you guys aren't buying enough sentries and placing them. That's all it is. Mark, I think you were playing position 5 this game, but you gotta secure one part of the map and then play around it. And so if you guys want to play around this bottom part, that's fine. It should be a dead lane for the Radiant, but you can't allow them to just have complete vision and not place down any sentry wards to kind of account for it. I think this is a huge misplay, and you've lost the vision war completely now, because they can have vision of you wherever you go practically, and you don't have anything to you're not doing anything to counter it. I mean, they've got complete vision of you everywhere you go, and they know where you're playing, where they can farm. PL sees you, so he goes down bottom. And I just don't see an adequate response from anyone. So I think that was a huge issue. Maybe it's just because, like, people just aren't comfortable with kind of implementing these things. But yeah, I mean, it's just really, really hard playing around this map with no vision, or playing it correctly at least. So if you're going to commit to a part of the map, just go gung-ho. Drop sentry wards and, like, have them placed everywhere. Put down wards on the high ground, put down wards on the low ground, all over the place. But commit to a part of the map rather than just this back and forth play that we're seeing. Because you're not getting anything out of the map. They're farming lanes, they're farming jungles, and you're just farming jungle camps in between, and all your lanes are pushed in now. You're getting punished really, really hard. And even though you're ahead right now, it's like, it doesn't look like you're ahead. Alright, so yeah, 1952, right about here, coming up now. I mean, you guys are walking up onto their high ground with absolutely no vision, and taking a fight after they took the shrine. Why? I guess, like, we've been over this so many times, and, you know, I still see you guys struggling with this concept. If you don't have vision of an area, and you seen them there, like 2 seconds ago, you don't walk up their high ground. It's that simple. Because you just get punished for it. And that's kind of exactly what happens. Like, I mean, you're taking a bad team fight with no vision. Just put a ward on the high ground, secure the outpost, but you gotta be prepared. This is just really, really sloppy. Like, you got a Jakiro, but that's pretty much it. And I think this is going to be like this is essentially a 4-for-1 now. Because of that rotation up onto their high ground with no vision. So, I mean, all this can honestly be prevented, again, if you commit to a part of the map and secure it. You didn't do either of those things, though. It was like there was a lot of back and forth movement, and then really, like, the ward up here, no one's playing up here. What's the point of this ward? No one wants to play up here. There's no objective. There's nothing you really want to pressure. You're not going to go for Roche anytime soon with this lineup. Yeah, I think it was just really, really sloppy, and that really contributed to part of the reason why this game felt like it could get delayed so much, was because now you're essentially giving space up to the PL. 22 minutes again was like another point where people felt like they were pushing objectives, but it's like I just, this entire game, I feel like there just wasn't a shot caller because everyone seemed to be on a separate page. Like, who was it? I think Tiny and Windranger were going into a completely different lane when the team was pushing an objective. And I found myself wondering why. Like, you've got all of your core items, you've got all your fighting items, but you just don't feel like fighting with the team and using your spells. And I didn't understand it. So, I mean, again, it's great if you want to commit to this part of the map now, but everyone has to be on the same page. You guys can't just split up and go 2 in one lane, 3 in the other, and expect it to work out just because you got a kill in the Chikiro. Yeah, there's just no reason for this, really. So let's see. Yeah, so, like, I mean, Lincoln on the Tiny, for example, I don't think you've used a single spell with your team in team fights for, like, the last... for about an 8-minute window. Up until, like, 27 minutes into the game, you're just not with the team. And that's... you can't be doing that, I guess, is what I'm saying, as that position 4 that everyone relies on for initiation. Like, this team fight is, if both you and the Windranger were here, this team fight is like a 5 for 0 and you get a tier 2. But because you gave up a kill to the Ember and the Windranger Urgent had to come in and kill him, barely got him, thank God. But because of that, like, now all of a sudden you're not getting any objectives, your team is suffering, like they're getting backed up a little bit, and you're giving up kills that shouldn't be happening. So, I mean, yes, this is a good trade, all things considered, but it's like, it doesn't feel like you get very much out of it. And part of that is just not playing with your team. And we'll go over this again in the pro game. Part of the moving away from the laning stage and moving away from the jungling stage after those 20-minute outposts, 20 minutes to 25 minutes, you need to be with your team. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Maybe you can have like a position 4 or position 5 pushing out one of the dead lane or something like that. But besides that, it looks like kind of the current meta, this fighting meta, revolves around being with your team 100% of the time after the 20-minute mark, basically. Is where you just want to stop making these solo plays. So, skipping forward a little bit, I mean, again, Tiny, like, while all this is happening, Lincoln, you just were kind of, like, chilling out in your jungle, like, going around this area for some reason, when there's really no excuse, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. I mean, you have your Blink Dagger, you have all your skills, your full HP, full mana, and you're just wasting 2-3 minutes waiting for a bounty room. Like, yes, these are important rotations, but these are rotations that you got to be making with your team.
So, while your top and bottom was, I went to, like, there was a big wave pushing in the bottom tier 2 after we took theirs, so I TP'd down there to clear it out.
Right.
And then I was pushing it out, and then I ran into the PL in their jungle. And he dropped me pretty low, so I went back, basically, and what you saw me for walking around was just me sort of regenning back up.
And again, like, I mean, kill stealing that right there, there's no excuse, honestly. Like, give those kills to your cores. That's a faster BKB on Wind Ranger if you didn't do that. Yeah, it's not your position really to get that farm. Again, I think we went over this in the last game, knowing kind of what your job is, because I think someone did something similar. It might have even been you, where it's like you just go for that last hit on someone for some reason, and it denies the gold from your core, who desperately needs it right now, especially with the Blink Dagger. So yeah, I think the next big thing was like 27 minutes, just getting everyone to use their spells. Because it's like, yeah, right here, I believe. Yeah, right here. So you know where the Jakiro is, and then AA is about to come on screen momentarily. But for some reason, you're just not using your spells. Was there something you were saving them for?
So basically, I was trying to figure out, like I didn't want to be just hit by everything and sort of just get disabled by like an ice path coming out, or get rooted. Like the big thing was in my mind was trying to avoid jumping, like walking into that magnifier by accident, trying to get the blink in. So I saw where the Jakiro was, but I didn't know whether like there was anyone else behind the Jakiro. Like I saw the Jakiro stuff come out, and then I didn't know if anyone was behind the Jakiro. So if I blink forward into basically the fog, I could be blinking right into like PLAA, just sitting right behind him.
Yeah, but you just walked up and smacked him anyways. Like, I mean, so now you see their entire team. What's stopping you from blinking in with an avalanche toss combo? But then when you do go in, you avalanche toss combo an illusion while the Ember Spirit is BKB'd. Instead of going on their supports, like what your job is, right? Because that's what you are as a position for Tiny. You want to find whoever you can burst with an avalanche toss combo and take them out. And you saw your opportunity too. It was right here about 3 or 4 seconds ago. But just that delay, that kind of... It kills you. There's no getting around it. You went on the wrong target at the wrong time, saved your spells way too long, and you get punished. So yeah, I mean you gotta always even if it was just the Jakiro right there. If Jakiro dies right here, well then Bloodseeker doesn't have to focus on killing him and can double back and go for the Ember Spirit or the PL that much faster, right? If the Jakiro dies right here from your combo, he maybe is here like 8 to 10 seconds sooner, and then none of these kills happen. But that's just the cause and effect of essentially not using your spells or not using them correctly. Yeah, because he ends up getting the kill on Mark II, and then finally goes down. So he got a triple kill basically because the Bloodseeker had to chase the Jakiro all the way to the tier 3. And couldn't put his focus on that target until later. And yeah, no one's putting down vision out here. Like, you've got this ward right here, but it doesn't help you very much, really. You're not securing this part of the map with this ward back here, right? There's no point in putting down these defensive wards. You really want to get these deep wards over here and then play around them and protect them. Kill off supports when they go to deward them. But like all game long, I saw you guys kind of giving up these wards and not really playing around them and just being unsure of where to play. So hopefully in this game that we're going to be reviewing later on, we'll give you a few examples of things to do rather than just telling you this is wrong. So I know it feels kind of harsh right now, but I want you to go into this with the mindset of, okay, how can we fix this and what can we do better? Because that's what I'm hoping to accomplish. So I mean, again, I don't really want to spend much more time on this game, but it's like 29 minutes, 30 seconds in, you guys are just like walking into these fights with no vision down until mid-fight, and you're not smoking for these objectives or anything. It's just like people are walking in and dying, and it's like it's just not clean play. It's not what I've seen from you guys that I know you're capable of. Yeah. So, I mean, I haven't seen like a single smoke rotation this entire time. Like these team fights aren't happening as 5. I'm not seeing any blink initiations from anyone. I've seen you guys doing these things, but it's just not. I guess it just didn't happen in these last couple of series. And it really hurts because I feel like you guys definitely should have won like at least one of these series. Definitely, if you were playing like you were before. But yeah, it didn't really seem like everyone was coordinated this particular game. I didn't see any smokes, which was really strange. The rotations were off, the itemization was off, and the drafting too was just a little bit difficult, I would say. And that was really the reason why this game was so difficult. It was just mistakes, and I know you guys have fixed them before. I know you've made cleaner play happen, but I didn't see much of it this game, and in the other game for that matter. Alright, anyways, that's all I really want to say. The rest of the game is just kind of snowbally after that. Let's quickly, I want to just go over a couple of quick things in the older CSL game from last weekend, not this.
Against Michigan.
Yeah, against Michigan. Just wanted to go over a couple of quick things to really explain why that happened the way it did, and then we'll go into the EG game. So it's going to be this one right here. All right. We'll save this until later too. I don't want to talk about that right now. All right. Yeah, so as far as the draft goes, I think they definitely expected what we were going for. We might need to like start developing other combos. Actually, we really should. I think the draft was mostly fine this game, though. The Pugna could have potentially been like a Zeus or maybe a Viper or a Huskar. But I think the biggest thing really was the laning phase was a disaster. We got outlaned really, really hard this game. And part of that was like missing skills and CS on a lot of heroes. I think Pugna didn't. Adam didn't really seem very comfortable on Pugna, honestly, this game. I'm not sure how much of that matchup he's played, but it was like he was missing a lot of CS with his skills. He was decrepping the OD at the wrong times and kind of just walked into some Astrals that made his lane really rough. The OD actually beat him out on CS, which, like, I mean, yeah, it's going to happen when you're against an Immortal, what? I think it was like Immortal 700, yeah. But, I mean, these are things you got to work on. Your mechanical skill, your skill usage, and your understanding of the matchups. And it's like, I understand if you're not comfortable now, but these are definitely ones to work on, because Pugna should hard counter OD in lane, I mean, 10 times out of 10. There's no reason for OD to get a good lane here. Oh, let's see. Besides that, the Wyvern, I think that was another one that like Lincoln just wasn't comfortable on this hero at all. And it's like if we can't play these heroes well, I don't think we have any business drafting them in official games. Scrims, it's whatever. Like, it's just a scrim. Nothing ever comes from it. But it's like when you're playing real games, I think comfort heroes should take priority over what we think is good. And we should really keep that in mind for the future. Because I saw a lot of people just... I think this game in particular, everyone seemed to always be out of position. I mean, the Wyvern was like playing way too far up this game. The Pugna was playing too far up. The Drow Ranger was playing too far up. All of these lanes, everyone seemed to position very, very poorly. Lincoln played around this bottom tree line a lot and just gave a ton of free hits off to this Lina, who just sat in the trees and right-clicked you constantly. You gotta move up around, away from their position 4 if you want to harass out this farming core, basically. You can't play around them, because we've done this before, right? you've seen how effective it is when you get Puck on Radiant and can just play in this tree line up top and get free harass off on them. It feels awesome because you're just blowing their region constantly and they can't do anything about it. Well, this guy's doing the exact same thing to you, and you got to think about how to avoid that at all times. It can't just always be offensive. Sometimes you just need to play around cooldowns or play more defensively in these particular lanes. The other thing was like a slight misskill. A really cool build that I've been watching and seeing in the Majors qualifier was 2301 for the Wyvern, because there's really no point in getting E early in the lane when you can just ferry out more regen and go more aggressive and apply pressure with more damage build, essentially. I think the biggest issue with this game was like the fact that you never rotated out. You just kind of died over and over again. And I've said it before. I've told you to rotate before sometimes, and it's like you make so much more things happen. It just feels so much better when you go to another lane and help them to win it really, really hard rather than just chain feeding. If you're not going to accomplish anything in the lane, the Slaughter can just get levels without you. Every time I've reminded you to rotate on heroes when you have a bad lane, you do it, and it's game-winning because you salvage at least one really crappy lane. But every time you just sit in a lane and keep dying over and over and over again, you lose the game horribly because you're not having any impact. You're actually having negative impact on this game. Let's rewind it a little bit, quickly go over bottom lane. So bottom lane, a big thing was kind of being out of position on the Drow. Oh boy, about 3 minutes-ish into the game, I saw there was like a really, really bad pull from the Disruptor. Mark did it. But it's like, okay, right here.
Zach.
I'm sorry, Zach, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark wasn't playing position 5. Sorry, Zach. Zach did this. So, right here, your creep wave's coming in. This is an excess creep wave, right? So that means another one is right behind it, right about here. This lane's going to push if you let it, but he pulls it right here, and the result of that is this one takes out this range creep, and then this happens. So now you're giving the Ursa more experience and more farm while you just kill this lane and don't really... I guess it puts the equilibrium back in Ursa's favor with this pull, which is never what you want to do. You want to disrupt the lane equilibrium with pulls. You want to deny camps. And this didn't. This actually did exactly the opposite. It gave him back his equilibrium and gave him more experience. So I think that was a really lane-losing pull right there. But let's see, what else? The other thing is, nobody's harassing this guy. He's just kind of sitting at full HP while you're going on the Vengeful Spirit, which really shouldn't happen. I mean, the Venge isn't having much of an impact here, but because the Ursa's full HP and you miss the field, he just dives down the Drow, and he's able to do that. So this doesn't happen if instead of the Vengeful Spirit, you're focusing down the Ursa. Because the Vengeful can never kill you, right? If the Vengeful gets on top of you and stuns you, and the Ursa's like 20% HP, well, what are they going to do? They're not going to walk at you, because the Ursa's just going to die. But if the Vengeful's 20%, she can just walk up, stun you, run away, and the Ursa can just run at you. Well, now all of a sudden this lane becomes a kill lane, and the Ursa starts getting ahead of you. Remember what I said. The priorities in lane. You don't want to harass out the support. You always want to harass out the carry, the farming core, if you can. If you can't, that's when you harass out the support. But because there wasn't any pressure put on this Ursa, and you just let him sit at full HP and full mana, he just gets to dive you from all the way here back to your tier 1 and get kills over and over and over again. So it's like part of that comes from Disruptor not using spells on him, not skilling Glimpse earlier, missing fields, and the other part of it is that Drow Ranger just kind of stopped auto-attacking him with or frost arrowing him, kind of past that 3-minute mark. I just didn't see a whole lot of it, and he can just walk at you now. He's a 5 armor boy, and he just runs at you with way better move speed. So that was really the biggest issue, honestly. Let's see. Yeah, about 8 minutes. Once the Ursa just kind of starts completely dominating this lane, and he's just out leveling you like crazy. Really, the same philosophy behind what I'm telling Lincoln to do applies to you as well. If you're losing this lane super badly, well then there's no reason for you to just keep teleporting back to the lane and dying. If your lane's going to shit, just make a rotation and farm a different lane. That's what you need to do. It's like Drow Ranger and Disruptor. Okay, well you're not accomplishing anything in this lane right now. Ursa is kind of going nuts. He's way out leveling you guys. The Vengeful's having a pretty free game. She's just getting off pulls and there's nothing you can do to contest it. Like, what do? Well, the answer is not go back to bottom and keep doing what you're doing and losing the lane harder. You should go top. Like, secure something. And even if Urchin has to rotate afterwards, at least you get something out of the laning stage rather than all 3 lanes going horribly. So that was kind of a contributing factor to why this game felt so hard, is everyone was losing the lane and making kind of bad decisions and chain feeding kills, and nobody wanted to make a rotation or secure any lane, let alone one. But nobody secured a single lane, and so they were able to just run you over. Now, the 10-minute mark, oh man, this was a game-losing mistake at the 10-minute mark that I want to go over. This was the one other big thing. We're not really going to worry about that so much. But the 10-minute mark was, I think, the source of the end of the game. It ended the game with this 10-minute timing not being respected. And you'll see exactly why. Let's see. Yeah, Radiant gets this at about 940, which is perfect. It's a great rotation. Puts pressure on you guys to either get one, or else you're not going to get any experience. And nobody's set up for it bottom. It's never going to happen. People just died top, and it's like you always have to prioritize at least getting one of these outposts, because if you don't, what is about to happen will happen to you every single time against better teams. They get both the outposts. Now look at the hero levels. I want everyone to see this. 4 out of 5 of your team are on par with their Lina, who is the most underleveled on their team, and she's about to get 6. Lina has more experience than everyone on your team except for Pugna. I just want that to sink in. They've almost got 6 on every single one of their heroes. They've got all their ultimates. You have 1. Life Dream. That's it. And what do? They play it correctly. They decide to pressure you guys with all of their ultimates and try and take a team fight. Ursa's frickin' level 7. I mean, he can go toe-to-toe with the Pugna now that he's got a DD, he's got his team to back him up and everything like that. He doesn't really care if you decrepify him. Quite frankly, if right here he had the knowledge to just enrage and attack you, you die right here instantly. But I don't think he actually knew that enrage dispels that decrepify. And so he just showed mercy or didn't play it very well. I mean, yeah, they're being very messy with this initiation, but now, instead of backing off and licking your wounds, enjoying these 2 lanes which are now free, Slardar TP's in with his level 6 and initiates a fight that you guys can't take. They're out leveling you. They've got everything that they need to right now, and you don't have anything. Yeah, you didn't. This is a little bit of a misskill too. The 2 points into Decrepify when Nether Ward against the Lina, the OD, I mean everyone really, is so much more important. yeah, I mean, you're just taking a fight with like this level 4 Winter Wyvern that can't do anything, or this level 6 Slardar that's just getting kited, or um, the Pugna that's just getting Astral now. I mean, they've got all of their ultimates and they just manhandle you guys because of it. And all this comes from you not getting a second out or a single outpost. Because they're out leveling you, because you don't have Static Storm right now, because you don't have Wyvern's Winter's Curse, they can do this. And they just pressure down towers. Take a tier 1. Fine. And at that second catapult mark, right when they need to pressure you, they did. And they got the tier 1 tower out of it. They're playing this very, very well. And they're kind of establishing map control and everything around you, and there's not a whole lot anyone really does to prevent it. I mean, yeah, you get this overextension here, but it's like you don't get anything out of these kills because of how far back they are. They're the ones that are making things happen. They're the ones that are making kills or trying to go for kills on your side of the map so that you don't get any objectives if they fuck up and die. And it's like this whole game just felt like catch-up from that point onwards. From not getting this outpost at 10 minutes. Nobody made a rotation. Nobody played like a team. Nobody smoked. And now it's all just this huge snowball that's riding down on you guys that feels unfixable because everyone's just that underleveled. And so they're playing for Roche. They're playing for objectives, and they're getting them because everyone's just constantly out of position. Nobody's playing like a team. Nobody's making shot calls. And it's just a big old snowball that's happening. Yeah, I mean, that's it. 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes. No smoke rotations to speak of. Everyone's just kind of sitting in the base waiting to lose. And that's kind of what this whole game felt like. It was just like nobody was making plays. Nobody was trying to do anything. Nobody secured any lanes. It constantly just felt like waiting to lose. I mean, like, they're 2v4ing you right now. That's how far ahead they are when they can do this. They only need 2 of their heroes to take down 3 of yours out of 4. And it's just snowballing and not playing together as a team. I mean, remember those games that you guys took off of, like, the opponents that were way higher ranked than you? It's because you guys played like a team when you had a really bad laning phase. This is what happens when you don't play as a team and have a really bad laning phase. They just run you over. So I think the first actual smoke from you guys isn't even until like 20 minutes. And then it includes one of our favorite pastimes, which is walking up into no vision on the high ground and taking a team fight. So this is all fine. Farming during the 16 to 19 minute mark. It's fine, no problems with that. But now this comes about. Right now, smoke comes out. Now let's look at your vision. Where's your vision? Over here, over here. Everyone's just split up, not really doing anything, not going around the vision. Urging going for that was really, really nice. That was a good play. Having the knowledge that, okay, they're all playing around this part right here, I'm pretty free to go for that. That saved you guys a lot of experience denied. Those 20-minute ones are super important. This is like super greedy, but I mean, it still works out. But yeah, it's like that rotation just doesn't do anything, right? I mean, you saw them all over here, and you're just walking down this way. I don't know, it just felt like this entire time, it's like, oh, here it is, there it is, there it is, there it is. Alright, so now, what? We just scanned them, right? They just took this bounty rune up here, and we haven't seen them hit this ward yet. Urchin takes this, moves forward, gets the bounty rune. Yeah, so we scan them out, we know they're all right there, we see the Ursa, we see the Vengeful, we see the Legion. And what do we do? What do we do? Walk up into the high ground with absolutely no vision when we are 100% sure their entire team is there. Now you're taking a team fight 3 versus 5, presumably. Not even. Pugna's just out in nowhere land. Slardar wasn't in position because he was getting the bounty rune, then coming back around. Like, it's just very, very sloppy from you guys, and I know you're capable of doing better because I've seen you guys do much better than this. Yeah, maybe this was just tilt at this point, but I mean, that kind of stuff is just unacceptable. When you are 100% sure that their entire team is up here. You scanned them, you saw them, you know that they're up here, and Brandon is just walking up onto the high ground. That's just completely unacceptable. I don't really know what else to say there. But yeah, and so after that, it's like the team fights were just a mess. It's like there were rotations and stuff like that, but it's like you get 2 good kills from finally playing like a team and making a rotation onto Roche when you knew that the Ursa was there, which is fine, but if you're gonna go for like an objective like Roche right after that, you need to commit to it immediately instead of going and dicking around for 20 seconds, because now what happens is you waited so long to Roche that they're all coming back up again. You don't have any vision of this area, you're kind of sitting out of position on the Disruptor, and it's like everyone just gets gone on constantly, and they don't even need 5 heroes to do all this stuff. Oh, another thing was, you never took the outpost either. This was just left completely as everyone just farmed the jungle for some reason after getting 2 kills. Like, Drow Ranger started pushing in mid for some reason, nobody took the outpost, everyone just hit jungle creeps for 20 seconds after Ursa and Venge died. Like, come on, guys. You know better than this. You gotta focus objectives, focus getting vision down, and stop with this hesitation, this unsureness of, okay, well, are we going to do this? Are we going to do this? Well, let's do Roach 20 seconds later. It loses games, and you make good plays. That smoke rotation was good. That understanding that Ursa was there is great. But afterwards, it's just not playing as a team, and you just get punished for it. And that's just basically the end of the game after that. Like, there's no coming back from them getting the second Roche afterwards. They didn't use any buybacks or anything. But, yeah, so the last team fight was a disaster. We're not even going to go over that. We'll move into the professional game, because I really want to... I want to start showing you guys what to do differently, and showing you guys kind of better stuff to give you some inspiration, to give you some ideas of what you should be doing. So really, if I had to give you the big takeaways from that last game, it was everyone was just constantly out of position from the laning phase onwards. People are struggling mechanically and understanding matchups. 10 minutes, if you want a fantastic example of how to punish an opponent for not respecting objectives, 10 minutes is exactly what you should do. Rotate for their outpost, take a fight if they don't take it back, because you're going to be out leveling them by like on everyone. And that's all there really is to it. And yeah, and then 22 minutes not taking the outpost while taking a Roche fight. That's like the single most important outpost, really, in the game right now, is the one around Roshan. And you gotta put a huge priority on them if you're taking a Roche fight. Okay, alright. Now let's go into the EG versus Chaos game. So we're only an hour and a half in, so we should have plenty of time to go over this. I want to get everyone's perspective. I want a little bit more in-depth conversation about this from you guys, since we don't have everyone here. I think it'll make it a little bit easier. Right. I think it'll make it a little bit easier, and it'll make it a lot nicer for everyone watching this back to see it. If we can just get a little bit of input on this. So, while the drafting is going on, has anyone been watching the minor?
I have not personally.
Anyone else? I know Urchin can't talk. Lincoln, have you been watching the minor at all?
Not really, no.
Okay. Well, so I've been watching a few games from it. And some interesting things that I've been seeing is stacking and pulling the hard camp on the dire side safe lane, since it's harder to contest from the Radiant. And it stacks and pulls at the exact same time if you run it straight to the tier 1 tower. It's much more efficient than pulling this small camp as well, because it just denies creep waves right away. So that was one thing I saw a lot of that you guys can do. The other thing is on position 4 Wyvern. I've been seeing a lot of, like, rather than the traditional relying on the ultimate, going for like treads, blink dagger, and damage actually on the Wyvern. Trying to actually do damage to people herself in the ultimate stage, since Wyvern can now damage people.
Wow.
I thought that was a really, really cool build.
Finally, I can talk.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I forgot I was saying the last team fight was my co-op, but I forgot I was pushing to talk in Discord.
Okay. Got it. Yeah. That's okay. I mean, you guys are gonna make mistakes. I'm not gonna pretend like I expect anyone to be perfect. All I can hope is that you guys learn from it and don't make mistakes like multiple times over and over again when we're going over these kinds of things.
So, Dad,
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question.
Yep.
For a scene like this, are these bans because they know that they don't want to face against like comfort heroes that the other team has? Or
So,
is it more of like
as
they have a draft in mind that they don't want
Yeah,
countered?
good question. So as far as the first 3 bans are concerned, one of them is a comfort pick for evil geniuses. The rest of them are all completely meta heroes that are first pick, first ban material. Nyx Assassin, Tiny, Enchantress, Snapfire, and Slardar are all just heroes that can basically get away with murder at all stages of the game, have incredible impact, and counter out way too many heroes right now. Tiny and Nyx especially, just because of their power to rotate, the nature of Nyx's kit, and I mean Snapfire to some extent as well. Just how easy she makes lanes for cores, how effective her entire kit is at doing everything. Enchantress is an incredible pain in the ass when played correctly, and Slardar is just one of the strongest offlaners of the meta. It's first pick material. The only ban that's comfort pick for EG is the Naga Siren, and it's because they play some absolutely disgusting and very, very hard to execute combos really, really well with it. Like some Naga Disruptor, Naga Earthshaker, Naga Doom, like a lot of these. Oh, Naga Centaur is another one. A lot of these kind of combinations where it's like you're already picking pretty strong heroes that are in the meta, but comboing it up with the Naga Siren Sleep to set up all of your initiation, if done properly, is just unplayable when done right. But if you do it improperly, well, everything feels super lackluster, and you just get run over because now you have a Naga Siren on your team, and she's not ready to fight until 25 minutes in. So that's part of the reason. But yeah, the other thing that I saw that was very common in a lot of other drafts besides this one is like, I mean, they're all obviously prioritizing the same heroes: Enge, Snapfire, Slardar, Nyx, Tiny. Doom is still top tier, Lich is still top tier, Wyvern, Puck, Batrider, Slark, Ember Spirit, Lifestealer, Centaur. They're all contested. They're all still top tier. Omni Knight 2, to a lesser extent now, though, because I think teams are really starting to learn how to play around him. But I want everyone to look and tell me what the frontliners for each team are as we come to the end of this draft. And I'll skip forward a little bit. But who do you expect to be the initiators and the frontliners when you're watching kind of the end of this draft. And yeah, just real quick, give me your input as you see it coming out.
Seeing Death Prophet right off the bat makes me think of someone that's going to go in. Maybe not initiate, but she's definitely going to be in the front line.
Right. Okay.
Probably Doom is probably going to be blinking in
Yep.
to get the initiation on people.
Storm Spirit.
Storm as well. Oh, and then Centaur. Yeah, of course, Centaur, obviously.
All right. So now look at this team. So can you just count out loud, how many heroes exactly do they have that scream super tanky heroes that can frontline and do stuff?
Everyone except Wyvern on Chaos.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And on EG? It's
Probably
less.
yeah,
Definitely.
just Lifestealer and Doom.
Lifestealer and Doom, yeah, right. Because Storm wants to kind of zip in, get pickoffs, and zip out, not really get caught. But I mean, if you look at these drafts, I love the way both these teams are drafting right now, because they always prioritize at least 2 heroes that are tanky frontliners and can initiate. And they get as much AoE as possible. Every single hero on each team has AoE abilities. Every single one. There's no worrying about pickoff potential or kind of trying to get these heroes that just focus down one. Every single hero on this team has abilities that benefit the team and have AoE CC, AoE control, AoE damage. That is the emphasis and the whole point of drafting in this entire meta. Is you want 5 heroes that can just contribute to a team fight all game long. And just brawl constantly from 5 minutes onwards.
I feel like EG's draft is something we've played against.
Probably. It seems really common. Lifestealer Lich, Doom Grimstroke in the offlane, and a Storm Spirit mid.
I know there was a Lich Grim in our first game yesterday.
There's a Doom Lich Grim a couple
right.
in one of the scrims.
It's still a strong combo, I'm telling you. If you can get it off correctly, I mean, it's still a very potent combo. But yeah, the thing that really just stuck out to me was that every single team is drafting these tanky frontliners as cores, right? Especially their cores. I mean, the supports sometimes, and when you pick these really squishy supports, we're going to see in this game exactly why the Spectre pick was so good. But sometimes you can get away with picking these squishy supports, but the cores, for the most part, tend to be these frontliners that just they have to be able to fight constantly and survive in team fights, because that's what wins games. And so when you guys are drafting, you gotta keep that in mind, because there's too many times when I'm seeing, like, in that last game that you guys played, you're drafting things like Bloodseeker, Wind Ranger, +1, Viper, that's right. And none of those heroes want to be in the front line, right? None of those heroes want to be initiating or, like, just man fighting people. They want to go for, like, pickoffs or kite around the edge of the fight or hit them from far away. Every single core on EG's team and on Chaos's team wants to run at you and kill you. Every single one. Those are the picks that you should really be prioritizing. And that's why I don't really like the Wind Ranger pickup so much. Even though maybe it's like a comfort pick for some, or like something that you guys like running, I don't think it's very good as a core in this game, or in this meta where it's like everyone wants to run at you constantly. I think that's really what you have to look for more in a draft. So any questions, any kind of input on this?
We were thinking put Mag as 3 in that game.
Magus 3 could have worked, potentially, but I think it's still pretty difficult because PL does do extremely well against Magnus. Doppelganger is a pretty freaking strong spell, and it really makes it difficult to get a good RP off, honestly. And then the lane for PL is also very, very good against Magnus.
I was thinking before they picked up the Ember I was thinking like a Mag Viper for like 3 and then 2.
Yeah.
It was before they picked the Ember. It was like right after they picked the PL. Actually, it was before. I was
Honestly,
saying like we could pick up
yeah.
Mag before the PL came, and then Viper mid, and then because Adam said he couldn't play Magnus, and I
Ah,
thought, well, with the Bloodseeker already, the Magnus is great
was
because
it this one versus
it,
Purdue? This was the one,
yeah,
right? Yeah. Okay.
yeah. Instead of the Wind Ranger, it'd be Magnus, and then that way it would be a little bit. It would be frontline. It would also be more damage to deal with the PL illusions.
Yeah.
Plus a lot of control in fights
I
because
think, yeah, I think Magnus would have helped. The problem is, it's like Underlord and Jakiro are both so good against Magnus. I mean, just the ability that they have to kind of de-initiate an RP skewer, keep you in one place and punish you, because Mag isn't very mobile after he skewers, right? After he
right,
gets
but
off that initiation.
right, but with the Viper, the whole point is that we just want to keep them in one place so we can get stuff off. So it would be Brandon running in after the RP, or like it wouldn't be even repositioning them. It would be like RP, get the silence down, get the Viper Nether Toxin down, and then they're stuck there because PL can't make more illusions. He can't doppel because he's silenced. He has to Manta.
Well, that's
Sort
not
of
until
like
Viper hits 25, right?
Yeah, that's not until Viper's
Brandon
25.
silence. Brandon silence on Bloodseeker.
Oh,
Oh,
okay,
okay.
okay, okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you
I think it definitely would have been better than Wind Ranger.
I mean, it's just it provides a lot. Plus, Magnus gets really tanky in
Yeah,
transitions.
and you would have been able to empower the Bloodseeker as well.
Yeah, and the Tiny and the Abaddon because
Well, it's
like
less important to empower your supports, but yeah, I get what you're
right,
saying.
but it's a 4 melee team with a Viper as the like kicker, sort of to round it out.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, I think that definitely would have been a better choice. I really don't like Wind Ranger 3 at all under any circumstance. I don't think she
I
really.
don't really like to, but just play it. Honestly,
Okay,
the
okay.
problem I don't like the play hero that cannot farm at all.
But like, okay, so what's wrong with Centaur? Why couldn't you have picked Centaur here instead of Wind Ranger? Was it banned?
We
Not
didn't
yet.
think about that.
I don't think it was.
Centaur does really, really well into PL. He's a natural pipe builder, which is amazing versus AA and Jakiro and Underlord. He's got
I don't know,
de-initiation for the
I don't know
Underlord.
if we picked the Wind Ranger first. I think we picked the Wind Ranger first, and then they picked PL.
Yeah.
No, I think
No.
They picked the PR first.
Yeah, and
My
then you
Wind
picked Wind
Ranger
Ranger.
was
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah. It was
last
definitely after
to
the
pick.
PL. It was definitely after the PL.
Yes.
So yeah, I think you
Sounds right.
definitely is something a little bit more meta. And I think you would have had a much better time. Like the Centaur. Really, I think is just a natural answer to this because I think to some extent that also denies the Ember Spirit pick a little bit because if you're building pipe on this super tanky hero that can frontline all of a sudden. Well, now Ember Spirit has a little bit harder time jumping onto the back lines when he has to deal an extra 600-ish damage to 700 damage on average. And it's like you can all of a sudden you have a frontliner now, right? You have someone who can actually be in these fights and give you vision and initiation rather than just getting played, essentially. So when you're making these drafts up, if I'm not there to help you, these are the things that you really have to think about. Drafting more meta heroes that accomplish their jobs more effectively than things like Wind Ranger.
Well, so originally, the original plan was Brandon was like, all right, we're gonna pick the Tiny because Dav said that Adam was like you had skill with it, and then if it
Yeah, Adam
doesn't
was
look
great
good,
on Tiny.
we'll swing it to Lincoln on 4. And I was like, oh, okay, because it was like an early pickup. So the Tiny was originally supposed to be like going mid with Adam.
Right. And I think,
And
honestly,
then
you can play Tiny versus Ember Spirit. That's a really good lane for Tiny,
yeah.
still. So, yeah, I'm not sure how the Viper really fit into that, honestly. I think you could have picked a different 4.
The Viper was for the
We asked Adam when you play Ember, what's heroes you don't like? And he said we can play, and we
Meepo.
said Viper. And he said, then we just pick Viper.
Yeah. Oh my god,
Yeah.
anytime I see Ember Spirit, I just think Meepo and it's a free game. Doesn't matter what the
I
rest
mean,
of the team is.
I thought of Viper because I figured Viper would fare well against the PL with the break. It was a natural break.
No. That's not. No, that doesn't help. That really doesn't help against PL. Because like the thing is, Viper doesn't want to be in the middle of things. Like you saw that game where PL would just get all of his illusions on top of Viper, and it didn't matter if you broke his passive for like the extra 30 agility or whatever it is. He just drained all of Viper's mana, and then all of a sudden Viper was useless. The whole playstyle of Viper really is pretty well countered by PL, because it's like, even if like, yeah, okay, he's got a break for his passive, which is pretty important. If he's got enough illusions up that he can just drain the Viper's mana, Viper doesn't do anything with no mana. You can just completely ignore him and he does nothing. So it's like, I really didn't like the Viper pick there, honestly. I think you needed something with more CC, more lockdown. Shoot, even a Leshrac I think would have been fine.
I think we could
putting
say
him in.
Sesh as well.
Yeah.
I don't remember why we didn't go with it. I think it's just. I think we said. I don't know.
I don't think Adam was comfortable on it.
I think
Also, I don't think Viper really fit to our
no, it
playstyle.
didn't. It didn't at all, because it's like it didn't allow you to push down towers. You didn't have any tower push with a Viper pick, and it's like I don't really think he was very comfortable on Viper. Honestly, it didn't seem like he knew how to really apply pressure or play the hero correctly. Like there were a bunch of times where he was super out of position or playing with like 20% HP because he thought he was invulnerable, and then there was other times where he was like, we showed he was diving under the tier 2 tower. Yeah, against these mobile heroes like Ember Spirits and Storms and stuff like that, which really come online at level 6, I think you guys just need a new game plan for mid. Like, I think that's something that Adam really struggles against, is these mobile mids, because he can't lock them down.
I think we just need to expand like the hero pool, because usually it's like Viper, Zeus, Kunkka.
Ember.
We haven't. I don't even think. I can't remember the last time we picked a Ember, which maybe that's on us, because I know he loves Ember. We don't really pick it for him. And then other than that, I can't think of anything else. I don't know.
Yeah,
he's played Lesh a couple times, I believe. Like I feel like he could have played Lesh.
Yeah, Lesh would have definitely been an option here, I think.
I don't think he's good at dash too.
Yeah, I don't think he's
was completely beat by that Lion mid last time.
Oh yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, yeah, it's just things to keep in mind for the future. I think the biggest issue with Adam right now is he's struggling a lot against these high mobility heroes and learning how to play against them. So picking out some mids that are really good against it and learning them. Puck, for example, is really, really good against mobile heroes. Super good. Meepo is another one, but I mean, that's really fucking hard to play, honestly. Quaswex Invoker is pretty good against mobile heroes, especially Storm Spirit. Oh my god, I've seen that matchup played a lot, actually. Quaswex Invoker into Storm Spirit, just because Cold Snap stops him from ulting constantly, and it's like, it's an instant cast, and you can just completely bone a Storm Spirit's initiation by just pressing one button. Quaswex, very, very good. Let's see. Who else? Ember Spirit's pretty good against like Storm Spirit. Yeah, Leshrac is pretty strong if you can get an early Yules.
What about a Razor?
No, not so much. It's not even good against Ember and Lane, honestly. It's okay against Storm. Huskar's great against Ember Spirit, not so good against Storm Spirit. Because again,
I feel like we banned the Storm. Like we haven't gotten Storm Spirit picked against us in a while. Because we'll like ban it out if we think it's going to be good against us.
Right. Well, Death Prophet, again, Death Prophet is also very good against Storm Spirit, not so good against Emperor Spirit. That's something you guys could always consider. Who else? Trying to think. Actually, if you want to meme a little bit, Earthshaker and Ricky are both very, very good against Ember Spirit.
Earthshaker mid would have been very funny to see.
Yeah. Void Spirit actually now is super strong against Ember Spirit.
We were also talking about Void.
Yeah. Void Spirit's amazing against Ember Spirit, man. Oh my god.
He's getting a lot of play right now. Like,
Oh,
he's
a ton. He's like top. He's definitely contested at the top tier.
Yeah.
I
remember we threw out the name.
Lone Druid. Lone Druid's also very nice against Ember Spirit because it's just Ember has a really hard time contesting him in the lane. Storm 2 kind of suffers from that AoE fear. It's an instant cast on both, so it's like you don't really struggle to get it off. There's no one you can really go on. If he tries to CC your main, well, then you just tab to the bear and click fear on that. That's another option to look for. Very, very good against Storm, very good against the Ember Spirit. Those roots really punish them if they get procced, and then it's like the fear makes it really, really hard to actually go on anyone on your team. That's another one that's actually still played in the competitive meta, is Lone Druid. He's getting some pretty decent play. But yeah, I would say look into those heroes. Really, if you think mobility heroes are what you're struggling with the most, check them out and just try starting to play around kind of a different play style from what you're doing when it comes to these matchups. Because I think that's what Adam is really, really struggling hard against. The other thing that you guys can do against Ember Spirit and Storm Spirit is start learning Lincoln. Start learning Earth Spirit. Because Earth Spirit dumpsters both those heroes. Oh my lord.
So I've been starting on it.
Learn how to play it.
There was the game with you, and I played another game before. I mean, it's just like you and I went over this. My pool is like slowly expanding.
Right. I know it's difficult learning new heroes. Don't get me wrong. Another one you can do is Skywrath Mage. It's actually very, very nice to play against those heroes, especially if you rush like an Atos.
Skywrath on my list, and then you said no, take it off. It's not really that good of a 4.
I think it's getting better. I think it's definitely getting better.
Because I made this with you, and I had Skywrath
it got some nerfs in the last patch, didn't it? Oh yeah, it's because of the experience. They took away the experience talent and gave him 8% spell lifesteal, which is a total meme. But if you can learn to play it well, I think it's a very good hero. I'm not very good, but I think it's good. But the problem is if you don't play it well, like it just feels like a total liability. Like he doesn't do anything and he's super squishy. So I think that's a situational 4 you can look into. Earth Spirit, however, is going to be good for like the next decade. I promise you. That hero's always going to be good. Just the concept of the hero is amazing. And
Jarex left the scene. They increased.
I know. Oh my god, he's been nerfed constantly for years, and he finally gets a tiny little buff, and now it's like everyone's playing him again, and they're realizing, oh my god, this hero's actually so busted. Like, yeah, Earth Spirit's definitely one you should keep on your radar, because that's something that dumpsters mobile mids. Oh my god, just that instant silence, the ability to stun them over and over again from a distance. Early ganks from Earth Spirit destroy Ember Spirit and Storm early on in the lane. Like, just the concept of that hero is good against mobile heroes as a 4. Anyways, let's get into... That's enough kind of about concept talk. Let's get into this game. I'd really like to kind of go over this with everyone. So, let's see. Something else that I was noticing in the minor... Small things to remember, Crystallis is probably the most efficient damage in the game right now. If you're on like right clicker, you need to be considering that as an item every single game after its buffs. On tanky heroes or initiators or supports, casual bracers are getting picked up a lot. And it's like on Clockwork, for example, having 2 bracers has been the difference between getting away with murder completely on like 2 HP or dying and doing nothing. The casual bracers on supports and tanky heroes is huge. It's one of the big trademarks of this meta, I think. Yeah, mid laners playing mid laning heroes as carry if it's advantageous. Swapping lanes if you get last picked, super important to do. Yeah, and then just thinking about the ban orders and the pick orders of absolutely broken heroes and what to pick. I have a list actually the cool thing about that site that I showed you guys, Spectral Stats, is that they do lists for every single pro tournament and circuit and stuff like that. And I will link that in the Discord under the coaches notes right now. They have an entire pick ban list for all the heroes in the pro circuit qualifiers. And it's really interesting to go over if you're ever questioning, well, what should I be playing or what should I be trying out in this current meta? Really, really cool list. I just put that in there. You should check it out after this coaching session's done.
That's very useful.
All right, so as far as this game goes, personally, I love EG's style. And I think it's really helpful for reviewing what to do when your lanes don't go fantastically, because they tend to suffer from that pretty regularly. They're not the best laners, especially after Sumail left, but they make some phenomenal comebacks. And if anyone else... But, again, that's just me. This is personally just my favorite team. If anyone else has a particular team or player they'd like to see more of, please let me know, and we can go over some replays deeply. I'd like to start going over more pro games rather than ours. We can still go over the CSL games or any like scrims, but now that CSL is over. But I think as far as teaching goes, I think I can get a little bit more out of showing you the correct thing to do rather than telling you not to do the wrong thing. So I want to go over some more of these professional games, especially when we have so much content from the minor and the majors. So if anyone has a particular player or a game that they want to see or that they want me to analyze with everyone as a team, by all means, let me know. Let's do it. I want you guys to be looking out for those in the future. But yeah. Okay, so let's move on a little bit. Let's see. So we talked about this, massive emphasis on having at least 1 to 2 tanky heroes to frontline and as much AoE as possible on both teams. Everyone's drafting that. It doesn't matter who you are. Okay, let's look at the Earth Spirit's perspective in this game for the first couple of minutes. Because I want to show you, I went over this with Lincoln a little bit, but I want to show everyone else as well the kind of impact you can have on position 4 without
you just want everyone to be able to call me out on bullshit.
No, I don't. Because honestly, I don't think it's just an issue with you. I think it's an issue that everyone suffers from. But in this particular game that I picked to show to you guys, I feel like the position for this Biver really shined. Played his game very, very well. So let's see, minute 0, everyone is obviously playing around the bounty runes. In a particular lane, like Storm Spirit versus Death Prophet, where the block is very, very important for Storm Spirit, you want the mid laners to get off that block. Again, Death Prophet going for the RTZ block, really, really important. Abed on the Storm Spirit, just getting the best block on Dire that he can. These are the things that you want to prioritize, because if you get a bad block as Storm Spirit, Death Prophet can just harass you out of the lane with Soul Siphon. And it makes it impossible to see us early, and then that just makes a really, really shitty lane. And then that translates it into a really shitty game, because then the Death Prophet gets the Yules quicker. She can catch you out at all stages of the game until you get a BKB, and you can't have the same impact that you can if you allow her to snowball and have a good lane. So getting off a block is very, very important in these particular matchups. But anyways, just basic CSing. So up here, position 4, he's got tons of regen. This is an appropriate amount, and Orb of Venom so that he can trade, right? That's the build. He went for an orb, so he wants to right-click people and swap out this to give his position 3 a much easier time. So what does he do? Well, first off, he's pulling the creep wave, which is really nice against these harder lanes, Lifestealer Lich versus Centaur. I think it's a really Lifestealer favored lane, so what do? Pull the first creep wave that they can, since they can't secure the first wave themselves. So, he does that, pulls the wave for his Centaur, makes the lane a little bit easier. The Lich is doing a really good job of solo harassing, but he can't really do everything. And eventually they get level 2 on Centaur. Now, look at what this Earth Spirit is doing. He's getting... he saw an opportunity and took it, really, right there. The body blocks were on point. I've seen Lincoln do that before on the puck, and I always manage to commend him because I think it's some high skilled stuff. But he saw an opportunity to go on him because the lane equilibrium was off. It was getting pushed under the tower, and he went. So that early kill was a really, really good rotation. I'm sorry, not a rotation, but an example of how early aggression from this build, this Orb of Venom plus aggressive rolls with an offlaner who can actually do things like click retaliate and stomp, active offlaners can have a huge impact. Now, the first thing I want everyone to see is notice when, or how long he stays in the lane, right? As soon as he gets level 2, what does he do? Doesn't, just immediately. It's amazing. I love this rotation. He only stays in the top lane as long as he has to get level 2, and then immediately makes a rotation on mid. This is just, I went over this with Lincoln, and I was just blown away by this, honestly. It might not seem like much to you guys, but just the idea behind it is fantastic. And if you're against these mobile heroes later on, but suffer from mobility early, like a Storm Spirit or an Ember Spirit, making a rotation like this on a position 4 is huge for the lane. And even though it doesn't work out in this particular instance, this kill on the Storm Spirit, I'll show you why it's so impactful, being able to do this and let the Centaur just get levels underneath his tower. So he goes for it, barely misses it, but now look at what he does. I'm just going to leave it on 1.5 right now, so it's not too fast. Look at what he does. Walks up here, plays off the map, so the Storm Spirit shouldn't be... Well, he has vision of him right here, so he sees that, unfortunately. But if he didn't have vision on this Earth Spirit would be playing... What he's trying to do is play out of vision, and not let the Storm know where he is. So, he sees the Storm pushing in this lane, and what does he do? Still playing in the shadows. He noticed...
They ping out the ward there.
Right.
I don't know if you noticed, but...
because of how defensively he was playing.
Yeah.
So they kind of had this inkling, kind of a feeling that maybe there's vision or something like that. Maybe the Storm has it, because he's playing absurdly defensively for this lane. As soon as the Earth Spirit came around, so he guessed correctly, got this ward, and then look what he does. 4 minutes in, he camps this mid lane until 4 minutes, and uses that to secure the room. That way, Storm Spirit doesn't get it, doesn't refill his bottle, has no regen now. This is so important if you want to shut down a mid laner, is to limit his resources, limit his farm, limit his ability to hit creeps. It's such a cool play. I mean, just the understanding, first off, that, okay, he's playing defensively, well, maybe he has vision over this. Getting control over this rune, particularly, since they have vision of it on the top lane, and then making a rotation onto him to deny that. It's such an amazing play to me. Just this game sense. And then he sticks around too, because he's going to turn, since he's level 2, he doesn't care about early levels on this Earth Spirit. He's making as much as he can happen with it, but he understands that he's not going to do anything against a Lifesteal or Lich. There's just nothing you can do now. They've got enough levels, with Sinister Gaze or Frost Shield or Frost Blast. All these are good against Earth Spirit early on. The Lifestealer is never ever going to die. And if you aggressively roll in, you're going to die, because he's got open wounds, and you can't stun him with the Centaur because of Rage. So what does he do? He doesn't even bother going back. He makes the most that he can out of level 2, which he got, and immediately got out of that lane. And now he translates that into, I'm going to get a ward for my mid laner, I'm going to secure the rune for my mid laner, I'm going to force this guy away from jungle camps, get aggressive vision down for my mid laner, and then I'm going to rotate. Look at this, circling it out. Abed already knows. But I'm going to rotate on this bounty rune at 5 minutes for my mid laner, so that this Storm gets absolutely nothing. It's such a cool play, and it's such an important play to make. He's never out of position. There's never a point where he feels like, I'm going to be dying if I'm here. He gets very aggressive ward, so he always knows that someone's coming, and then makes these plays to deny experience from the Storm Spirit. puts down a ward, understands Storm isn't playing here, rotates to the other jungle, and this play denies level 5 from the Storm Spirit early on. So now, for this 5-minute rune, he can actually get it, and yes, he dies here, but it just denies so much from the Storm Spirit because now he has nothing. He doesn't have any bottle charges, he has to buy his own stuff, he's got no HP, he has to walk all the way back to base because of that play. That's an example of an acceptable death. That's a great death, actually, for Earth Spirit. Now he gets to come back full HP and pressure the tower with his catapult. Do you just see how well timed all of this is? Earth Spirit's denying all this from Abed. Abed is now level 4 to the level 6 of the Death Prophet. Earth Spirit's been doing this job flawlessly. Rotates for a 4-minute rune, gets a ward, rotates for the 5-minute rune, denies all this experience and everything from Abed. So when Abed should be hitting 6 around this 5-minute wave, he's level 5. Just phenomenal play from the Earth Spirit, honestly. And it's some game-winning stuff. Yeah, man.
Would you say that it would have been better for the Ursur to block that camp there by the tower with the ward?
No, because then what that does is it gives them the idea, okay, well, wait, there's a ward, let's de-ward that, and it's just a free ward for them, and you deny maybe like 1 or 2 camps. What this ward does, and what it accomplishes, is they're not sure where it is right now. These were safe wards, remember that. They de-warded this over here, so they know that these wards aren't going to get scouted, and what these do is it tells them if these camps are being farmed. It shows them where the Storm Spirit is at all times. And it just makes life impossible for Abed. I mean, you can see this right here. He's already down to half HP just because he lands a single rolling boulder on him. He didn't even kick him back or anything. But now, look at this. Death Prophet pinged it out, right? She's showing, oh, hey, there's the Storm Spirit. He's around bottom lane now. And that's the benefit to this ward. Is if this camp was blocked, yes, you deny the experience, but then the supports de-ward this right away, and Storm is playing off the map now, and you don't know if he gets 6 quickly from a stack, or if he's rotating bottom, or what have you. But because this is here, they are able to get it. Like, look, it's such a sneaky ward, they don't even scout it. They thought it was way back here.
Wouldn't something on the high ground there be, if they put a sentry on the high ground, wouldn't that catch it?
Where? Oh, on this high ground? Yeah, maybe. Yeah. But, yeah, high-tier teams don't tend to do that for some reason, actually. It's 99% of the time better to just put the sentry ward down here so that you get more use out of it. But in this particular case, you're right. It would have been better to put it on the high ground. But, I mean, I think, personally, I think that's just some next-level stuff, honestly. I mean, this is just so cool, watching the Earth Spirit play around his mid laner, not allowing him to die. Like, no, you don't die now. You do what I say. It's a 4-man rotation that gets nothing because of this Earth Spirit. I can't overstate how much impact this guy is having. And he's level 3, 8 minutes in. Just amazing. Amazing stuff. So what does this do? Alright, so the first rotation on mid was immediately as he gets level 2. And when the position 4 rotates, what does everyone think that... We didn't really look at what happened top lane afterwards, but the Centaur has 2 kills and 0 deaths. How is that possible against a dual lane? Can anyone make a guess? Or anyone want to weigh in as to how the Centaur had such a good lane without his position 4?
Maybe the pressure that the Centaur, or that the Earth Spirit was applying forced the support out of lane from top to Lich?
Nope.
No? Right.
Support wasn't... Lich wasn't there at all until about 6 or 7 minutes in.
Mm-hmm.
Centaur gets an XP advantage, and he's able to like pull the wave through, which you saw a glimpse of. He just cut the wave and got ahead, and then when the Lich tries to contest him from that, he just picks off the Lich, because he's ahead of the Lich.
Exactly right. Let's rewind a little bit and just watch this on fast forward. That's exactly what he did. Yeah, after the Earth Spirit leaves, gets his pull off, because this is a really hard lane for the Centaur, right? Lifestealer is so good against Centaur. But, so what does he do once his support runs away and this lane becomes, I mean, for all intents and purposes, impossible? There's no reason for him to get anything out of this lane at this point, right? So what does he do? He waits, this lane pushes underneath the tower, he gets a full wave. What does he do after that, though? Because now it's going to push towards the T1. Plays with Retaliate. Does that. Is able to harass the Lifestealer around a pressure time, right? Lifestealer doesn't have Rage, so he can just Hoof Stomp and Retaliate on him, and he'll get away with it. This is the time to pressure him. And he knew that very well. The Lich was pulling, and so the Lich wasn't with the Lifestealer to assist. That was just the right play. So he knew when to pressure the Lifestealer, and he did it. So now the Lifestealer, I mean, he got the salve from the Lich, which is nice. Because now he's still got a ton of regen and can harass him out. But look at this. They harass him completely out of the lane now. He's not getting anything. And this is what is expected. But now how does he deal with this? Boom! This is it. This is the answer. Pulls the lane away from the Lifestealer. And now he's turning a completely lost lane. He ignores the Lifestealer completely. Doesn't care if he gets free farm or not. He's getting as much out of the lane as he possibly can. Completely ignores him. Just keeps on doing his thing. What does that do? Gives him a level advantage over the Lich. A huge level advantage. And now he sees this lane has gotten back to equilibrium. He doesn't go for it because the Lifestealer's there. You just want to ignore the Lifestealer. You don't care if you only get 1 out of 2 waves, right? Because you're getting the same experience as you would if Earth Spirit was in your lane. You're fine with this, honestly. But look at this. 5-minute rotation. Tries going for the bounty runes, even if he doesn't get it. He made a good rotation onto it, dragged the creep wave back into it. Pressures out the Lich. Brings the wave underneath his tower. Goes back for that. The bounty rune. Farms the creep wave still. He gets so much out of this lane. Now he's almost level 5. In a completely countered lane. Ferries out regen to him. Very important. Ferries out just enough regen to stay in the lane. Not too much. Gets a Windlace too, so he's making progress on some items. But look at what he's doing. Ignore the Lifestealer. Get the wave. Farm as efficiently as you can. Hit jungle creeps. That's an example of it. This guy's playing the lane perfectly. MSS. Pretty famous pro player. I think he used to have a lot of success in T1. Now, he dropped off somewhat recently, though.
Yeah, there it is. The Lifestealer went to contest and he just dies.
Yeah. So look at this. Now he gets to farm a bunch of stacks because he scouted it from the Lich. He doesn't have to sit in the lane. He doesn't care about the lane. This is what Centaur do, baby. This is how you win unwinnable lanes, by making these rotations.
Is there a reason why he isn't using double edge at all?
Yeah, does way more damage to him than it will do to the creeps. Honestly, he needs as much HP as he can get, and the damage from Retaliate is more than 1 level of double edge.
Like even when he was like going on the Litter wave, he didn't use it. I was wondering why not.
Because he's low HP and he puts more of a priority on HP right now than anything else. And honestly, he didn't need to double edge the Lich, as you saw. It's just a very advanced understanding of his hero, quite frankly, and understanding its limits as well. So like, he knows Lifestealer's going to get on top of him, doesn't have any interrupt, just TP's out. Just a very good understanding of hero interactions, honestly.
I mean, like, if you think about it, if he double edges, he drops a bunch of HP and then he can't farm that camp because he'll die from it.
Yeah, that too.
So then also it's like, okay, he gets low, he farms the camp, but now he is. What if someone shows up?
And
now he's dead because.
And now the cool thing is, now that Lifestealer wants to push out the lane and farm jungle camps after that, now he's getting a free lane. So now he just comes back to the lane and doesn't care if Lifestealer's there or not. He salvaged his lane, and he played it very, very nicely, 1 versus 2. It's such a cool thing to see. He played this completely correctly, I think, in the most efficient way possible for these first 10 minutes. Just fantastic stuff. Alright, what else? Let's see. Oh, I want to show something really cool around the 6-minute mark for Dire. So EG makes this really interesting support rotation. They're keeping the Grimstroke down here in middle lane, and the Lich is going to be making his way down here into middle as well. Why would they do that around the 6-minute mark? Can anyone tell me?
Sorry, can you say that one more time?
Why would both of the supports from Dire rotate mid around the 6-minute mark?
Did this Prophet already pop ult?
Yes, and that's why the tower's like a third.
Yeah, they're just trying to keep it
quarter
alive
of its
as long
HP.
as they can.
Yes, exactly right. They're trying to keep this tower up from going down as much as possible. Making sure that Ovid has a good game, the Lich comes in, salves him up, so he doesn't have to use his bottle charges. The supports are sacrificing themselves entirely. Look at Fly's items. He's got a stick and an iron branch and wards at 6 minutes into the game. Nothing else. He's played his entire game around his cores, trying to give regen to the Lifestealer, give regen to the mid lane, making their games as easy as possible. Stacking all these camps, even though it got contested. This is just a really good example of how to play a sacrificial 5, basically, when your cores have a rough time. Even if he dies, it's like kind of whatever, yeah, but it is annoying. But I mean, I don't think there's really going to be this kind of rotation in your games per se. This Centaur moving out here, so I think you're going to be mostly safe.
Making that Centaur play, right?
But yeah, so because these supports are moving in, it delayed the death of this tower by like a good minute and a half or so. And so it still goes down fairly early, and unfortunately Ovid didn't get the deny on it. But that was essentially the purpose of that rotation.
Was barely missed the stun on that Grim.
Yeah,
that was unfortunate.
That's super unfortunate. But that was a rotation of that mid. If you don't want this tower to go down super early against these TAs, against these Death Prophets, against these Brood Mothers, etc., you just need to rotate heroes into this lane. And most of the time, that's going to be the position 4 and the position 5. Great job from them. It delays the push by a minute or two, which in so many games can be a deciding factor. Delaying these timings by even something as small as that. So let's see. As far as the Earth Spirit staying mid, the 4 position just camps it after that unsuccessful gank, honestly, because no one on Dire was rotating to help him. And it secures a 4-minute rune, secures a 5-minute rune. And one of the things that I saw around these early-ish rotations, let me see, like right around here, I want you guys to look at what's going on at 5 minutes into the game. Where everyone's positioning, where everyone's heading to. Right about... Stop. Right here. Look at where everyone's going. Top lane, the Lich is going for these runes, right? The Centaur's trying to bring his creep wave over here. Earth Spirit's going for this rune. Storm's going for this rune. Wyvern, even the Spectre, is going for this rune. At 4 minutes and 50 seconds into the game. They push the creep wave underneath the tier 1 tower. Fantastic play from this carry player, Yawar. He pushes his creep wave underneath the opponent's tower, and then goes for the 5-minute rune. It's just an example of setting up for the rotation. The first rotation you should be making every single time. And this is how you do it. Push out the wave, go for the rune. Now look at what they're doing. Just contesting it. So, it's just such cool play to watch both these teams actually rotating for these runes. And this is what you should be doing. Against worse teams, you're going to get free runes and get a huge advantage. Against good teams, you're going to be contesting them around this time. And against really good teams, hopefully you're going to be trying to take team fights against them efficiently and getting things out of these rotations for 5 minutes. Sometimes you get punished, like the Radiant did. Earth Spirit kind of died there, but it didn't really affect things that much. It was a pretty acceptable death, all things considered.
Well, yeah, like you said, it caused the Storm to have to go all the way back to base to regen.
Yep.
Death Prophet was able to get a free level 6 and drop that tower without being contested.
And that's just the power of these early game rotations. Again, we can skip forward to 10 minutes, and we'll see very, very similar things. People contesting the outposts, people contesting the runes. It's just how teams play correctly in this meta, and it's what you need to imitate if you want to get better at this game. If you don't, by all means, don't bother with what I'm saying. But if you want to get better at this game, this is what you do. You have a mid laner who's saving all of his mana and HP, trying to stay around like 75, 80% on both of them, so he can contest these outposts and these runes. You've got these people playing like, look where everyone is, 955. Offlaner's right next to it. Support is sitting behind the mid player, who's also right next to it. This guy goes in and gets a cheeky little sneak onto it, but the carry player is playing around this, not farming the lane, right? Because at this point it's becoming more and more dangerous around the 10-minute mark. He's farming the jungle creep closest to the outpost to try and dissuade anyone from going for it. Maybe if Lich was there moving onto it, they could actually stop this guy from getting it, and it would be really, really good for them. But, I mean, pushing out this mid lane is also another option for the position 5 who's been playing Sacrificial Lamb this whole time. It's nice getting a little bit of farming levels on him. But you'll notice every single team is making some kind of rotation around these objectives. Dire team, what do? Go for the bounties immediately after. Radiant team, I think they're misplaying, honestly, but, I mean, what are they trying around this 10-minute mark? They're trying to take this tier 1 tower, and they get it, which is fine. And then they go for the bounty runes immediately after.
Well, it doesn't show it in this, but the Earth Spirit had an Invisorin, so they wouldn't have seen him until he was directly on top of the outpost taking it. So by the time the boost, slow as fuck Lich would have gone over there, he would have already taken it.
Right. Yeah, and that's...
It would have just been a waste of time.
I
think you just let it... Yeah, you said it earlier.
I think
why didn't the Lifestealer go? It's just because what can they do?
Yeah, the Lifestealer can't cancel anyone from taking it, honestly. But it's like, that's the cool thing about these rotations. They're just making them correctly. And this is the impact. Now it's like, it's an even game because both teams are making correct rotations. There's less than a 1k lead for the Radiant, who's been out-rotating them, quite frankly. But everyone's put the correct amount of pressure onto their respective lanes. Storm Spirit obviously cannot pressure the tier 1 against a Death Prophet. Death Prophet's made both rotations with Exorcism translate into a tower eventually. And everyone's rotating for these objectives 5 to 10 minutes into the game. It's very, very cool. Now, one thing I want to point out at 12 minutes into the game, that's that was interesting to me, is look where everyone's farming. Death Prophet's probably the strongest hero on the map right now. She's got 6 armor, 1400 HP when these are on strength treads, and infused raindrops with 4 charges of Spirit Siphon. Nobody's taking her down. So where does she farm on this map?
The most dangerous lane.
Right. And Centaur, he's pushing out mid lane. Everyone's prioritizing the waves. Wyvern is playing in probably the most, well, in reality, the most dangerous part for them, but they do have a lot of vision over here, so it's pretty safe. Just getting levels and experience. And then we're Spectre, taking the absolute safest farm in between everyone else, right? This is where he's at. He's going to be extremely weak until he gets his Radiance. So what's his solution to that? Take camps that are between your vision and the enemy team, or between your team and the enemy team. Just the distribution of farm is very, very interesting. It's pleasing to the eye, honestly, to see this kind of stuff work out in a game. Like Lifestealer, he's got Rage, he's got maxed out Feast, he's got Infest. he can afford to play in this dead lane where they have absolutely no vision. And look at Dire's wards. I just think this is so cool. How it's just a line securing this area with these sentry wards, making sure that Radiant have absolutely no vision whatsoever in this side of the map. That's what the Sacrificial Lamb does. That's why he has absolutely no farm 12 minutes in, despite all the bounty runes getting taken up. It's because he's spending all his money securing vision for his team. And now that they're going to be starting to play here, well, guess where they're going to start planting down vision? Boom! Aggressive vision taking over this part of the map. And now they're going to play around it as 4. Because that's what you do if you want to take over this part of the map. Smoke into it, put down vision, secure it, and play around it. It's super clean play from these guys. I like seeing this. Now, maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't, but in your games, when people are playing much less sloppy and without their team, walking up onto high ground with no vision, shit like that, it's going to punish them.
I think it was a mistake on that Doom to start attacking the camp, because if they'd kept going, they could have probably gotten the kill, but he started hitting the camp and they saw him on the ward come out of smoke.
Yeah, maybe. So yeah, smoke right here. So this is important. So they know that they're playing around this part of the map. So what do? They smoke onto the high ground rather than anything else. And, I mean, it works out. Maybe it should have. Maybe it shouldn't have. I think if Doom was there and Storm was in position, they could have potentially fought back with the Grimstroke ult, the Lich ult, and everything like that. But yeah, that's one way to... Oh, but now look at this. Look at how cool this is. So they make a successful smoke gank up here, right? And what do they do immediately?
They drop vision down.
Drop vision down, secure the parts of the map that they didn't already have before, which is over here and over here. They know that they've been playing around this side of the map. They just took a team fight. What do? Drop down vision to resecure it. Now, look at the map. They're controlling all this. Spectre's up here. They've got another ward watching this, giving him safe farm. They've retaken control of their jungle down here. And what do Dire have? One crappy ward that nobody's playing around. And this one trying to secure this lane. So right now, the Radiant have control of all this up into that outpost, rather. And Dire has to play around here. That's the power of getting vision down correctly, and what you can do after taking a team fight is securing so much of the map for your team.
What time is it, Dev?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's smoke time because it's 14 minutes and they're going for the bounty runes soon. This is such an awesome smoke. The execution of it was terrible, honestly. Like, I remember watching through this game. I know exactly what happens already. The execution was terrible. The idea around it is phenomenal. The entire team is getting ready for those bounty runes 40 seconds ahead of time.
So when me and Dev were looking at this, I noticed the Storm TP's back to the tier 2 to go back into smoke. Instead of like going
definitely.
Goes back to the team to smoke up.
Yeah, he was playing down here. He was playing in this lane down here around their vision. Now he goes at this 14-minute mark. Somebody calls out on their team. I guarantee you, I fucking know it for sure. One person on their team said, "Let's smoke. Bounty runes are coming up." What does Abed do? Well, screw this. I'm going with my team. I'm playing around them right now. TP's back. Smoke. 14 minutes, 10 seconds. Perfect. That's what I want you guys to do. Next game that you're playing, I want to see you smoke 14 minutes, 10 seconds. No excuse not to. 4 people, go as a team, play around this core at this 15-minute mark, and make a better rotation than this. Because diving headfirst underneath a tier tower with absolutely no vision is never the answer, even for a pro team, right? And you'll see exactly why. You don't have any vision, they get to juke you out in the trees, and even though you get an initiation on this, you don't see the Wyvern over here, you don't see the Death Prophet, and now you're going to get punished. Fantastic Yules from the Death Prophet. I mean, they're all diving underneath the tier 2. These guys, like I was saying, have +5 armor now, because they're all playing around this tier 2. And what happens to Dire? They crumble. When they could have been playing around the bounty runes or up here, getting this outpost or something like that, they instead chose to dive underneath a tier 2 with a tier 1 still active and get completely punished for it. It's just, this is an example at the pro level of an extreme misplay of a bad call and how it punishes you for it. Don't dive under the tower with no vision. Just don't do it. Play around your vision, play around the objectives, and work for pickoffs around something more important. Get vision down. Recapture this area if you want to play around it more. Do something productive rather than diving, which you should never do. So it's a fantastic game sense and timing. Amazing play. Stupid fight to take. Very, very stupid. And then from this 15-minute mark on to 20, what are you going to notice mainly about this? Where is everyone and why are they in these positions? Can anyone tell me that?
Jungle items.
Jungle items. What else? Mark, Urgent, can you get anything? No, bounties were taken a minute ago. Mark, Urgent, can you get in on this?
Why Evil Geniuses is in the positions they're in?
Yeah. Why are they all split up all throughout the 3 lanes, pushing them all out and in the jungle? Why are they playing like this?
They just had a failed gank, and I feel like running in again might not be the move. I don't know. I think they need to maybe sit back, maybe get their next items, and then go again.
Right. Okay. So one of the things that Urgent mentioned was jungle items, right? You've got your 15... I'm sorry, not Urgent. Lincoln. One of the things Lincoln mentioned was jungle items. You got your 15-minute items coming out, right? So what that means is from 15 minutes up until 19 minutes, you don't want to do anything but farm. You want to get your items. There's no objectives, right, on the map. Unless you're going for a tower between 15 to 20 minutes, this is your time to farm up your next item. Lifestealer has a Maelstrom. He's going to try and get his Heaven's Halberd by the time 20 minutes runs around so that he can contest outposts and fight with his team. Same thing with Doom. He's going to be trying to farm up his BKB within the next 4 minutes if possible so that he can have more impact. And the Storm Spirit is going to be trying to get his Kaya up within the next 3 minutes, basically. This is the timing. And this is why the entire team is spread out throughout all 3 lanes, when most of the time you really shouldn't be doing that. Playing in 3 lanes. It's extremely greedy, but this is the time to farm. This is not the time to do stuff. 16 minutes to 19 minutes. You want to be in your jungle, farming up all your items. I can't lay it out for you any simpler. There's times to fight, there's times to pressure, but this is the time to farm. And that's what they do. Lifestealer's hitting creeps, Storm's hitting creeps, Doom is sitting behind his core, making sure that he can't get gone on. They're fine. They just go back to hitting jungle creeps for like the next 3 minutes. Absolutely nothing happens. There's no pressure being put on anyone. There's no team fights happening. Yes, the position 5 gets picked off in the dead lane, but that's because he's pushing out the lane. Like, he's still having impact. It's an acceptable death. He's not going straight back there and feeding. He's playing around his cores after that. So, everyone is just farming for this 4-minute period. This is when you do it. In between these objectives. Now, that was a really good smoke from them. It was really unexpected, too. But look at why they smoke. They understand that there's no 20-minute objectives coming out, right? So what do? They pop Exorcism and go for Roche immediately. Because this is the only objective that they can get, really. And they get it. Because they took down Dire's only source of vision. So, get a pick-off? Great. But if you do, you need to think about what kind of objective you're getting from it. If they didn't get Roche with this pick-off on the Storm Spirit, it's worthless. It's completely worthless, and you wasted a smoke. But since they get Roche off of it, well, now it actually means something. Now they're getting levels from it. They got more gold. They translated something small into something big by making this play. And that's an example of smoking at an off time, at an unexpected time, to get more. to get that same amount of impact as if you were to smoke at 19 minutes and 10 seconds, for example. Now, look at the positioning. It's 20 minutes. Where do they go? I think Radiant, particularly here, made a huge mistake not securing this outpost. That's like unbelievable that they would do that. But look at Dire. 20 minutes rolls around. Well, now nobody's farming anymore. No one's playing in all the different lanes. Everyone groups up and they play around the objective. The next objective. Outpost runes. It's just, just fantastic, fantastic timing on all of them. And they all know their rotations and they go for it. This is what I want to see you guys doing more of. There's a time to farm. There's a time to make rotations. This is the time to secure this part of the map and make rotations. They do it. You should too. Now, 2120 is an example of an extremely high-level play that I had trouble even thinking of until Lincoln actually pointed it out to me, of all people.
Of all people? What the fuck's that supposed to mean?
I got you, don't worry. Look at this Death Prophet. Why? I can't even... I couldn't even begin to comprehend why she swapped her power treads to agility rather than strength. But it's because she gets 2 extra armor from it. And the Lifestealer's Feast works on max HP. He heals more if you have more HP, so she doesn't want the strength treads. She wants the Agi ones for more armor, so he does less to her overall. And then the Wyvern can heal her up later. So she swaps to Agi treads as the Lifestealer's going on her. And the result is, he's not able to kill her or do anything. It's just such a cool next level play. But yeah, I think Chaos is just positioning much better than EG is right now. They made sure that EG doesn't have vision on this high ground of them. They were sitting on top of the high ground while EG was trying to force something from the low ground. Doesn't work. They aren't able to get off any of their spells. Like we've seen this time and time again. Even though they have vision here on the low ground, you can't go high ground and take a fight and expect to win it. It never happens at any level of Dota. It won't happen with you. 99 times out of 100, it's the wrong decision to make. So if you guys want to make this movement onto this high ground, smoke around, get vision down, and try to take it from a more advantageous position than just walking up the stairs. Alright, so the other thing I want to make a mention of, at 22 minutes after that team fight, with the exception of the Storm going for a rune, look at where everyone on every single team is. They're playing together. Every single person. There's no one that's pushing out this lane, no one that's pushing out this lane. It's pretty much reached equilibrium for the most part, so neither lane is really pushing too strongly or not. But both teams play around their cores and stick together. That's what you have to do. If you don't have teamfight ults on and you want to prevent them from picking off your core, sit behind them. That's all it is. You try to de-initiate as best you can and hope that they don't get bursted down, which he won't because he has an Aegis. But the same principle applies. Supports are playing around their cores at all points of the game. And if they're not completely together, it's for a reason. Lich might be going for this outpost and then going to get down vision. Make sure there's no vision scouting him. And what does he do? Places a hard to deward ward. It's out of range of this right here in case anyone puts it on the high ground. And it gives him a lot of vision over this tier 2 tower. Where do you think this team is going to play now? Are they going to be playing in the top lane where they have absolutely no control and no vision? Or are they going to be playing down bottom lane and mid around their wards and around where they know that they have control? Look at the rotation. Everyone moves down around their ward. They want to prevent this from getting dewarded and losing control. So that's what they do. All the cores play bottom, all the cores farm bottom, all the supports sit with their cores in the kind of correct positioning. Lich is behind the Doom. Grimstroke is kind of rotating back and forth. Mostly because Lifestealer can play this lane without any BKB piercing stuns to threaten him. And yeah. But now, so Chaos, on the other hand, wants to be playing around their wards as well. Top lane already has all the objectives taken out. They have complete control of this jungle. So what's the next natural progression? Mid lane, right? That's all there is to it. Nice try TPing out from Abed. Doesn't really work. Just really clean skill usage from everyone. But yeah, at this point, it just feels like by nature of their skills and by nature of the heroes, the Radiant are just kind of the ones making things happen. And what did I say every single time about the team that is making things happen? They're gonna win it almost every single time. So if you're responding, if you're on the back foot, you gotta kind of think outside of the box, because that's not going to work. 25 minutes. Where are they taking a fight? Forcing stuff around the bounty runes. What a player, too. Jesus. That Earth Spirit is just incredible to me. Yeah. 25 minutes. What do? Make a rotation straight to the bounty runes. As soon as they secure them, TP someone to the other ones. Hope that they didn't get picked up by anyone else. They didn't. So, I think they just assumed, well, that this one was going to get picked up, but it wasn't. So that's a nice little bonus for them. I mean, they just secured 3 out of 4 bounty runes with that one rotation into this jungle. Fantastic. And now that it's 26 minutes, well, now they're feeling like they have slightly a pretty good advantage. So, I mean, you can do a couple of things. It's 25 minutes in, next neutral items are coming. Remember what I said. 25 to 29 minutes now, you're going to want to farm the neutrals camps as much as you possibly can. That's what Spectre's doing. Now, see, this was... To me, this was a really silly team fight because they're doing what I'm telling you not to do. But the reason this works out for them is because instead of pressuring it more into the high ground, they bait EG back into unfavorable position. The Earth Spirit backs out, goes onto the low ground, brings the Doom and the Storm Spirit down here, and then the Death Prophet kind of wraps around on them. Now the Wyvern's in position for her ultimate, and everything's going pretty okay. The Centaur manages to blink onto the back line and kill off the supports with the Spectre, which is phenomenal. That's exactly what you want to do. Now this is the downside to picking squishy supports against a hero that can just jump them from anywhere on the map, like a Spectre. They just die. Because no matter where you are, it's always going to be out of position. So Centaur got a really good blink there to kind of counter-initiate once the Storm Spirit and the Doom were silenced up over here and they blew everything. And it's like, even though they didn't have perfect vision, it still works out to them, mainly because of the nature of Haunt giving them vision, complete vision of all the heroes, and Centaur coming in with Stampede to kind of counteract any kind of initiation that Dire could have possibly come up with. But, I mean, again, this is just the nature of strong picks and a strong draft. They knew what they needed to do and how to take a fight, and, well, this is how they accomplish doing it in less than strategic positions. Managing to get complete vision with Haunt and initiation with Stampede and Blink. Alright, what else? So yeah, at this point, I think it was just pretty much the Chaos show. After that, I'm not really sure EG really gets a hold on this game after being this far behind. The Spectre's kind of able to just kill off anyone she wants as soon as she gets ulti, and it's like, everyone on their team is just having a good time on Chaos, I think. But it's like, still, even from like a really behind position, 24-8, look at what they're doing. They're all playing as 5, and they're making rotations around objectives. This is what they do to try and get back into these games where they're having a really bad time, is they try to out-rotate people. Now this, in particular, is a really bad rotation in my opinion. I'm sure there was some justification for it, though. Look at that ward from Radiant is so good. Don't want to initiate onto that guy. It's a lot of dancing around, but it's so cool. I mean, both these teams smoked up at 29 minutes, right? That's what you have to do. This is what I want to see you guys do. Prepare for these outposts and these wards and these runes by advantageously using a smoke for objectives. Now, Radiant is trying to position around Roshan. What do? They have a ward right here in the mid lane. They have this outpost secured, which is extremely important. I think this is the most important outpost to control in the game right now. For either side, doesn't matter. This one just does absolutely fuck all. But, I mean, yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Radiant is playing around their objectives. They get them. And then they just try to force things after that. Now that we're out of the laning stage, well out of the laning stage, and into the mid game, you gain a sizable advantage like this. Now's the time to be able to convert it. This is how you win a game. That boulder toss back. Oh my god. And then the CC on the Doom while he's BKB, totally acceptable. And he's just dead. Out of the game. Fantastic pickoff, and now they know they can either force a buyback if he has one, or get a tier 3. So they're pressuring. The person that sits in the front that hits the tower has the Aegis. That's on the Spectre. And look at the positioning. Look at where everyone is. Again, this is how you position. This is how you take high ground. This is how you convert a win. You've got the Wyvern in the very back. This is your support with the Glimmer Cape and the Force Staff out if you ever get in trouble. You've got the initiation on either side. Earth Spirit ready to Rolling Boulder in. Centaur on the front lines ready to either Stampede or Blink Stomp. And it's just nobody's really in a position right here where the Grimstroke can just use his ultimate and get kills. It just doesn't happen. Alright, what time is it? We're about 7 o'clock, so it's been about 2.5 hours already. I think we might call it right around here. I think the rest of the game is pretty straightforward. I mean, it's just teamfight after teamfight gets lost by EG afterwards. And, yeah, it's just Chaos out-rotated them. They outplayed them this game. They outdrafted them. And they just played better, honestly. They hit their timings much better and converted them into constant pickoffs and constant objectives. And you can see, like, EG really isn't playing around their vision right now. They're getting forced to play around Radiant's. Radiant was the one making all these plays, and they were the teams making forcing all these objectives. Well, guess what? Even against a better team, which I would say should take games off these guys at like 70-30 or so, they won a game against a better ranked and better playing team. Yeah, after using all those buybacks in the last fight, it's just so hard to come back. Spectre gets his Abyssal, now everyone is just food for him. It's a late game Spectre, like, you can't do anything. Utilizing buybacks when the other team has none. So this is the power forcing out those buybacks in the previous fights and then buying back immediately afterwards. Now that they don't have any buyback, they can freely push and end the game. That's it. That's another late game tactic. If you take an advantageous team fight, well, now you want to keep fighting. And if you die, so what? Buyback, keep running at them. Because they can't do that anymore. But yeah, okay, so does anyone have any questions, or do I need to explain anything more?
No, I think that made sense.
Let's go.
It was very cool.
Yeah, I hope that gives you guys a little bit, some ideas and just examples, really, of things to do, ways to play, ways to draft, especially, how to draft, what to draft, why, and really, like, just how to rotate. Because I think you guys really struggle with knowing when and where to be. And really, I think in this particular game, we saw the most effective thing was securing the game for your cores, stacking in between doing something, and rotating, making sure you get off all of your spells, getting vision down, and then around that same time, every single time, you saw both teams making rotations at 4 minutes and at 9 minutes. Every 10 minutes, they did the exact same thing. It's so predictable that good teams will be doing this. Because if you don't, you fall behind and you lose the game. That's it. So just remember that. This is what you need to do if you want to become a better player, is respect these timings, respect the combinations of heroes and their power spikes, the itemization, things like that. Just everything needs to be taken into consideration, and how you're going to take these objectives, how you're going to take these team fights. For the Spectre, it was get a Radiance at, let me see, 18 minutes, which is fantastic timing. Rush a Radiance, well, guess what? Guess what milestone he's ready for, and he's hitting a power spike for now. 20 minutes. And the BKB does come out on Doom, and Lifestealer has some kind of stuff, but the Lich and the Grimstroke are completely vulnerable to this Radiant Spectre now. And as soon as he ults, who does he go on? It's not the Storm Spirit, it's not the Lifestealer, it's not the Doom. He kills off the Lich and the Grimstroke immediately and translates that into a one-team fight. That's all there is to it. You get all of your items that you can, hit your power spikes by the 10-minute, 20-minute, 30-minute mark, and then make a rotation with them. This is when you need to be getting your items by. This is when you need to be having impact and making rotations. Every single time. Alright. And I think that's pretty much it. We'll call this like 2 hours, 2.5 hours, looks like.
Mm-hmm. I actually have just a quick question.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So in our second game from yesterday, the game that I played, like Timbersaw in the offlane.
Yeah.
I want to know, like, in that situation, like, I don't know, if I've never laned against a Bat Rider as a Timbersaw before.
Oh, that's such a hard lane, honestly.
Yeah, I think that might be...
That's an incredibly difficult lane.
It's probably the hardest lane I've ever had on Timbersaw. It was a nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, there's just...
It was just like... Where, like,
I don't know what you can do.
Yeah.
It's just 100% counter.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. 100%. At all points in the game.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Like, literally.
And I'm assuming that's probably just a problem in the draft. I don't remember when they picked Bat. They might have picked him later on, but
definitely later on, because I think you like second pick Timbersaw or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that in itself is a draft issue. You don't want to pick these sensitive heroes that should be countering a majority of the draft early on like that, because then you just get Bat Rider, or you get Viper, or you get Lifestealer.
So
like
there's
even Lifestealer is a really good lane against Timbersaw, honestly. Like despite being a strength hero, it's kind of a mental war of who's gonna blow what on accident. Is the Lifestealer gonna rage first and give Timbersaw 3 Whirling Deaths, or is Timbersaw gonna blow Whirling Death as soon as Lifestealer out-mind games him and rages, wasting the trade, essentially?
In my experience, it's like pretty even. It's not that bad.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a completely even lane. It's totally based down to essentially the skill of the two people and the supports. Yeah. But when you're in lane against a Bat Rider as Timbersaw, it's like, oh my god, it just feels like there's nothing you can do.
I can't believe I've never played that lane before. Or at least, I guess not against a good Bat Rider, at least.
No, Bat Rider isn't really played very much below Divine, honestly. At least it's not played correctly. Even by, Immortals.
In that situation,
he plays a lot of meat.
Normally in a situation like that, I would go and cut the wave. But it was to the point where, the moment he got, one sticky napalm on me, or one or two, I can't get away.
Right. Because he's a
Timberchain
lot
is
faster than you, and Timber Chain just isn't
just
effective enough early on.
you know.
No, it's just a
And at that
complete
point,
lane
like,
counter. I'm telling you. Like,
yeah, is it not salvageable at all? Like, just like you have to
if
set
the
up the
Bat
link
Rider
differently?
sticks to you, then no, not really. Like, yeah, I mean, there's just not a whole lot you can do unless you have a really, really good support like an Oracle, maybe a
Maybe an
Vengeful.
Oracle and the Abaddon.
Yeah, ABBA too. Yeah, ABBA, or
I
like
mean,
even a Legion.
I
Like
think they banned out both Abel and Oracle.
Legion, I mean, this would be a game. This would definitely be a game to get a Legion commander in. Honestly,
Mhm.
like I think picking up the Timbersaw early on is just an issue with drafting.
Like,
That's all
I
it
think
is.
because the instinct every time is like, oh, I see strength cores, Timber seems good, but I think it's just in that situation, is it better just to wait and see the rest of everyone,
Yes.
just because
Yes.
Timber is there's so
Yes.
many counters to Timber.
Yes, 100%, absolutely.
Mhm.
Like,
He's one
and
of, like, the
honestly,
last-
Timbersaw is not even that good versus Lifestealer. He's okay
Mhm.
versus Axe, but not really
Mhm.
Lifestealer at all.
Right. That makes sense.
So yeah, just a drafting issue. I mean, we'll definitely be reviewing more pro games from now on. I think. I think
Mhm.
it'll be just more helpful giving examples of correct drafting, correct play, and things like that to show
Mhm.
you guys a little bit more of, and then hopefully that reflects in your play. That's my thought process on it.
And like in general for Timbersaw, what sort of games do you want to be drafting him as a 3? Like obviously against like strength cores is nice, but I'm thinking like I don't know games because he doesn't really provide anything other than damage and like tankiness. He doesn't have any like lockdown.
No, not necessarily. I think you want to pick Timbersaw in a game where you can have a free lane and just push the tier 2 at like 10 minutes into the game.
And
Where
just
you can
like
just sit behind the tower and
yeah.
like tank up all the creeps, make sure that you're unkillable, and like there's nobody in the game that can do anything to you until like 10, 15 minutes in. So you want to be able to pressure the tier 2 tower basically by that first objective is what your goal is as Timbersaw. Doesn't matter if you're mid, doesn't matter if you're bottom. Like if you're a mid Timbersaw versus a Meepo, for example, you want to be running down that mid lane as quickly as possible before Meepo gets an E-Blade or a Silver Edge. Like that's your timing. That's when you're strong. You're stronger than the Meepo, and you can blow them up instantly. So you want to be running it down mid, getting towers, and pressuring as hard as you humanly can. That's the kind of game you pick him in when you can do that kind of stuff.
Basically just treat him as someone who can just make space all by himself.
It's kind of like a cheese hero, honestly. It's like you pick it to counter a certain lineup, and you pick it in games where it's good. And it just kind of cheeses the enemy into a situation that they're not comfortable in and that they don't want to play from. But when you second pick it and you let them prepare for it, and they have a good draft against it, then it feels terrible. Just feels absolutely awful.
Makes sense.
That's why it's hard drafting it. It's, if not impossible, drafting it early in captain's mode. Just because of that. Like, there's no way to ensure that it can be effective for the entire game.
That makes sense. Gotcha. That was just my main question.
Yeah, no problem. Anything else before we go?
I'm good.